Well, I guess Ketchup, you kicked us off last time. Spud, do you want to take the intro? Do you remember the name of the podcast?
It was something to do with ketchup, mayo, the condiments with Spud mixed in there, and then it's something like Doomcast, right? We're talking about Doom,
That's exactly it.
and this time a special guest, GMANLIVES. Welcome to the podcast, my man. An avid Doom fan. I mean, we'll get to this question soon, but I would assume Doom being one of the OG FPS games that got you into the PC gaming and video gaming in general, and where we are now. And yeah, from my experience with G-Man, just an absolute Doom nut. And it's great to have you on the podcast, man.
Yeah, welcome to the
thanks,
podcast.
It should be fun. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Have you ever been on something like this before?
Yeah, I have. I've done a couple of them in the past. And yeah, they're always just fun, man. It's just cool to just chat to like-minded people about games and stuff. And I mean, we're all playing them for the same reason, I think, which is just to have fun. So yeah, I love it. Always happy to come and chat to like-minded people.
And at the risk of sounding like that guy, I'm a big fan. I watch a lot of your content, so I'm pretty stoked to get you on the show, actually. So it's a pleasure.
Likewise.
Yeah,
He wants
cool.
you to sign his
Appreciate
Steam page after.
Yeah, I think I can arrange that. That'd be fun.
You know, I got into your stuff probably later than everyone else. I found you last October, around the time that Doom Eternal was delayed, and I just had this hunger. I was like, oh my god, it's delayed. I need to play a shooter. So I went back and I played Quake 1, and I was like, I need more. And I started going around online, and your channel was one of the channels I stumbled upon, and I found all your old retro reviews and your Dusk review, and that like you got me into playing Dusk, and Civi got me into playing Blood, and so I've been watching your stuff then. So it's just really cool to have you with us on this podcast and for this conversation.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you got your whiskey, as you said, right?
I've got it's actually my third one because I like to have the first one as a double because then you just kind of get that buzz going in about 10 or 15 minutes. So technically I'm on number 3 now, so maybe number 4 will happen in a little bit. We'll see how we go.
Right.
Man, I've just woken up. I've got breakfast tea. That's the best I got.
I mean, you can have whiskey for breakfast, but it's probably not advisable.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of a trend I've noticed. Every podcast starts with like Ketchup has the I just woke up morning voice, and then and I'm the opposite. I stay up all night for this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the night crawler, so the
You're a
party's just
whiskey
getting
guy
started
too,
for me.
aren't you, Mike? Yeah, you're a whiskey.
Yeah,
guy
no,
too.
just funny you said that. I literally just had a Chivas Regal just to
Yeah, she was regular. Yeah, right.
ease me into the podcast, just chill me out a little.
Yeah,
into the mood, get in the zone.
I've kind of like been on and off with the drinking thing in the whole like isolation thing, so I'm kind of think I've got it back to a happy medium now where I'm not drinking like.
Dude, I'm like friggin' McCready from The Thing, man. I'm just waiting for this shit to pass already. I'm just up in my heart, just drinking whiskey, man, and playing games. So
Mate,
that's all I do lately.
Yeah. There's worse ways to live, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, hey, G-Man, this podcast doesn't really have a format. Usually, I'll come on with 5 or 6, 10 topics to add to the conversation, and then maybe the other guys have some things too. We are a Doom Eternal podcast, but we don't have to stick to only that. And you're a man of many games, so things will be pretty open here. I'll throw in some topics here and there for conversation purposes. But before we get started with anything, any certain topics, anything anyone wants to talk about first?
I mean, I guess the first thing is, as we are often asking a little bit with other content creators joining the podcast. The first one being kind of what led you to both, I guess, Doom in its entirety, and what led you to decide that this is the kind of content you want to create, like very review heavy about almost, all kinds of different FPS. What was the point? What was the point that made you realize, you know what, I'm going to make this?
That's a good question. You mean what led me to Doom in general, like just playing it, or like as a kid, or?
Yeah, I mean, like first experiences that kind of led you. I mean, I guess it's a bit of a double-ended question because it's both Doom and the content that you create, but I'll let you take it however you want. But I guess we ask a lot of people, what led you to Doom,
Yeah, well, actually, to be honest, it was more Wolfenstein 3D was like the first, because I played, obviously that came out before Doom, and because my dad is self-employed, he's like been self-employed his whole career or whatever, so he used to do a lot of architectural render stuff, so he always had like the best possible computer you'd need, because he was doing graphic rendering stuff, right? So what they did back in the 90s, and I don't know if like, I know Spud's like a little bit older like me, but it's like back in the 90s, like they just gave those shareware discs out with like everything back then. You know, they were just trying to circulate games, and Doom and Wolfenstein 3D were just like one of those games that everyone had the shareware disc, which had that first episode. So I think I might have played Wolfenstein 3D like around the same time Doom actually came out. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like I kind of found that first, and then everyone gravitated towards Doom, because Doom was like, I mean, when Doom came out, it was like you could look at that game if you weren't into games and be like, holy shit, like this is awesome. Like that's kind of what got my dad into gaming too, because he was seeing me play these games and kind of brought us close together, because we'd be playing things and he'd come home and say, look, I've got this game. It's kind of how it happened with things like Quake and Blood and Duke Nukem. So, I mean, it just kind of started from that gaming culture in the 90s and that whole shareware model, which I guess was the whole point of it, man, was like shareware was supposed to get people talking about games. Like,
And it certainly did. I had the same experience with Wolfenstein.
Yeah. It seems like it's kind of like we don't really have the demo discs anymore, do we? Let that much with demos for games, and it like kind of seems like recently it's coming back. Like we were talking before about, like you got that Gloomwood demo that's coming out, which the New Blood guys are working on. There's that like Russian Quake thing, Harot, whatever you want to call it. Ultra Kill, exactly. Like, so I think we're coming full circle again back to that model where it's like developers are confident enough now where they can say, look, here's a game I'm working on. It's not finished, or it is finished or whatever, but here's a big chunk of it to get you wanting to play more, which is exactly what is hopefully going to happen with these newer titles, man. I mean, in terms of the YouTube thing, the guy who got me into YouTube was like LGR, like Clint, like back in the day. Like he was one of the first YouTubers that I saw who was doing reviews for, I think his Blood review is like, it's got to be like the first Blood review anyone ever put on YouTube. And he reviewed Shadow Warrior. I think he did Duke Nukem back then. And I just saw a guy doing that and I was like, man, like, you know, that looks pretty fun. And I just got like a new computer at the time for editing. It was a piece of shit at the time, but and I was like playing a lot of Blood 2, and I was like, well, no one's done a video on Blood 2, which I don't know if you guys have played it. It's a tragic game, but and then I just started like doing these videos for fun, and then very slowly, like emphasized very slowly, like it kind of started to pick up traction, and you start getting people saying, oh, you should do a review for this game, you should do a review for this game, and then before you know it, man, it's like, you know, 6-7 years later, and here we are basically. So yeah, it just starts out of fun, and I think that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, why would you be doing it in the first place, you know? Yeah, and it's kind of funny because like the number one kind of like critique I get sometimes is when people say to me like, oh dude, you've like sold out or something, as if
you've changed.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, because I'm
why
not,
would they say that? I mean,
it's
what
like,
makes
well,
them...
yeah, it's like I'm still doing what I love. Like as long as if I wake up someday and I start suddenly hate playing video games, then I might stop doing it. But it's like, how can you be a sellout if you're doing something you love? Like it's just a weird insult to me, you know?
It's a very strange thing about it's just a common thing about being involved in any kind of games these days, and unfortunately I feel like it's the more we do it, the more it becomes something that just simply, you know, for lack of a better term, comes with the territory, because my god, my voice is croaky today. It's basically like I do stuff with like Mortal Kombat, right? It's like one of the games that I commentate, and dude, there's the new Mortal Kombat is currently out. It came out last year. It's been out for a year, and it's not everyone's cup of tea because the game Mortal Kombat drastically changes with each game, right? It's not like a Tekken or a Street Fighter, which has kind of like its deep-rooted legacy mechanic-wise, and then, you know, they kind of add to it a little bit with each game. Like it's a new experience every time, and it's on purposely, you know, it's done that way on purpose. But that means that every new game is not going to be for everyone. The thing is, if you just so happen to be a person that likes all of the games, like I am, like there's shit I don't like about it, like there is for every bloody game I play. But if you like a game that someone else doesn't, the
You're a
immediate
sellout.
thing you get told is, "Oh, you're just a shill, man. You're just a shill. This ain't really your opinion. You can't possibly like it." It's like this weird culture of if you don't agree with me, there must
You're
clearly be
corrupt.
something influencing your decision. And it's like the most tiresome argument that it's like, how many times can I tell you, mate, that is dumb as shit. Stop thinking that way. Like, it's so stupid.
It's for me. I can kind of like. I don't think there's any merit in anyone saying that towards G-Man, because he's always been very transparent with his reviews and his work.
100%.
But like, I can understand why people do have their guard up, because we do live in the world of quote unquote influencers now. And there's a big mix. There's people that are very transparent about what they do, and then there's others that will just take the brown bag with a dollar sign on it and then just say whatever. And it's not just the gaming world, it's all of it. Like, if you ever heard of a thing called the Fire Festival, where it was an island, it was going to be a
watched
bloody
What a
that
island.
documentary.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched
Dude,
on
that just
that.
sums up the influencer sort of shill world and the selling a polished turd kind of thing. And that can happen in any industry. And the thing is, it's become so prevalent in this digital world now with social media. I can understand why people get their guard up, so I try not to fight people too much about it. But it's when it gets out of hand where people, I won't name names, but like, there's a guy I'm friends with in the hardware world who does reviews for hardware, and he got sent free stuff to review, and he reviewed it, and he even said some of these products are kind of mediocre, and he still got like this like bandwagon hate that he was, being a shill because he'd been given free stuff. So it's sort
damn
of
it.
it's a hard one to sort of juggle, because it's like there's those horror stories like the Fire Festival, that yeah. And I don't want to name games because there's a game from a publisher that I'm really keen about, but they also published a game that was just a tragic release, and they paid because I'm in the Twitch world.
Now I really know what it is. Yeah. Now I wanna-
Yeah, I'll tell you off
Is it
stream,
FPS?
but like
Is it FPS?
it was, yeah, FPS, but it was
no, I
just
really
like
wanna know.
it was just full of like everything was broken except the microtransaction part of the game. You know what I mean?
Oh dear.
So
Right.
They will get that pristine before launch.
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
right. They got to make sure that works, man. That's the most important feature. So yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Got to have those gold jackets, in the game.
But it's easy to get down to walk down that avenue, man. Like, I mean, I've turned down so many. I've only really started doing sponsored videos lately, and that's not even for gaming stuff. It's for like, I do this thing now with ExpressVPN, and I do another thing for those Raycon earbuds. And the reason I'm doing it is because it's products I use, and I've gotten offers. Like, I've had so many emails from that. What's that Raid?
Raid Shadow
mobile
Legends.
game.
Yeah.
Same.
Dude, like those guys, there was a period where I was getting emails from them like every couple of days, and it was a personal email because the person sending it to you was like following it up, like saying, "Hey, just checking you got this email." And I don't know if I can talk prices, but the prices they pay people to do those videos, dude, you do like 3 or 4 videos and you're set for the year, man. It's like offensive how much that money they're throwing at people. So
Yeah.
I can understand how people do it. Like, I don't have that situation where I've got like a bunch of kids and a mortgage yet, but like I can see some guy in that position. It's like, dude, that's hard money to turn down,
It also depends on your audience too, though, because I would say, like, I got an offer when my channel started getting some attention a few months ago. I got an offer from a free-to-play mobile card battle game, and I was like, okay, I mean, it would be nice to have some extra money, but I think, G-Man, you probably, I assume you feel the same way due to the nature of your content. I think your channel like lives and dies by your own authenticity, wouldn't you say? That,
Yeah,
like
100%.
if you get on there and you open your video with, now just let me tell you guys how much I'm loving the new Raid Shadow Legends, everyone would see right through it, and
There's
you
the
would
catastrophe,
lose. There would be a mass exodus.
Yeah.
Right?
Whereas the things, like I said, like I use Raycon earbuds. I'm not going to do it. I sound like I'm doing a bit now, man, but I'm not. But like,
No, that's fine.
I use that product when I edit. I use it when I go to the gym because they're those tiny earbuds. And VPNs, like for us in Australia, like I'm so paranoid now about like doing stuff on the internet. So any VPN is good, So it's like I would never be out there saying, "Hey, check out these like sneakers that I buy." Like I wear these, fucking sneakers when I edit my Doom mod videos. Like it's like you say, it's disingenuous, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you're transparent about what you're doing, it always comes through. You know what I mean? Like, I've done a few sponsored streams for some games in the past. Stuff that I don't main. Like, I know you're an avid fan of Rainbow Six Siege.
Massive
G-Man?
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't main it, but like I did a couple sponsored streams of it because I got nothing against the game. Like, I dig it. I just don't main it because like Quake is my main jam. Like, I'll always, divert to Quake Champions and whatnot. But yeah, like I do the odd one here and there to, like you said, you got to keep the lights on. But as long as it's something you're genuine about, you're transparent about, there's no issue. But I don't see why people would like. You haven't had that much drama over it, wasn't it?
No, not at all, man. Not really. Yeah.
I think it's just when it's the events. That's where people, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
there's like something going on because people get wined and dined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends on if it's a fit for your channel. Like you and I, we went to the QuakeCon thing, and like you and I going to QuakeCon is like that's like a pilgrimage for shooter guys. Like no one's going to look at that and go, "Oh my god, like you went to QuakeCon." Like you're not going to think twice about it. We're dudes who play shooters. It's the place you would expect us to be. But if we turn up at something for like Fortnite or one of those type of things, people are going to kind of go, "What the hell are you doing there, man?" And it's you may as well just sit there, flinging notes at the screen or something while you're making the video. Like it's a bit more obvious, but. Yeah, I guess, but people look for any excuse sometimes, like you say, to kind of, do you know what I mean? Like find a reason to dig in you and things like that. Like I said, I keep getting called a sellout and a shill all the time. I've been called a shill sometimes, man, for doing videos on games from like 20 years ago. Like I did a video on, I think it was a recent one. It was like, I'm just going to say it was the Vampire Masquerade game. And there's a comment in that saying like, that I was a shill. I don't know if the guy was serious, but it's like, dude, this game's like 20 years old now. Do you think a company's really going to pay me to shill a game that you can buy on GOG for like $4?
Is the company still even around?
I know. I think they're disbanded. Yeah, to be honest. But yeah, it's a weird culture where as soon as you do anything that people might deem doesn't fit in with your brand or your channel, whatever, yeah, they start to get a bit funny about it.
It's just so weird. I mean, I have your page open right now, and I'm looking at like the last 30 videos you've put up. Yeah, and I mean, you have a Far Cry history of console ports. You have a Perfect Dark Zero review. I mean, you have a few new games. You have Half-Life Alyx. You have Doom Eternal. You have Resident Evil 3, right? But then the rest of the stuff just seems like stuff that you like sincerely just want to talk about.
It's just what I'm playing. Yeah, like whatever's happening, like it was whatever I'm feeling at the moment, I suppose. I like to do more new stuff, but there's just nothing out at the moment. And The Last of Us 2 looks like the biggest piece of shit ever. I don't want to get anywhere near that. So,
and you don't want to be a trend chaser. You don't want to be like every week, like here's the latest gaming controversy. And like,
well, the thing is, he doesn't have to because he's established himself through years of work doing what he's doing. When you're starting up now on YouTube, it's quite I think you have to sort of hit that algorithm somewhere. Yeah, you know what I mean? At some point,
you got to find your niche at that point and then dig it out. Yeah, I think. Yeah. But for me, it's like I look at it this way, and I don't want to name names either, but there's a lot of big YouTubers out there that I kind of know of and know personally, and you see them doing a video on one thing, and they spend X amount of time talking about it under a microscope, and then they go into a completely different genre, and I don't know, man. I look at it in the sense of like. Taekwondo master's not going to go into a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym and suddenly start teaching people in there. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like it's that fancy, but it's like I just don't see how you could be that much of a fucking expert in every single genre. Like you guys were talking about the Mortal Kombat stuff, which you do the combo videos and that. Like I'm not going to suddenly review Mortal Kombat when it comes out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm not going to review Drive or like a driving game or Need for Speed or something. It's like I feel like you got to play to your strengths and. That's definitely what I think is going to make it is what builds that like not user base, like viewer base is the fact that you can tap into that. So people think, oh shit, like a new FPS game came out. I'm going to see what Spud thinks. I'm going to see what G-Man thinks. Like that's part of what I think is important in building that brand as well.
Yeah, I mean, so look, the thing is, and it's kind of interesting. I feel like we're all so on the same page. It's ridiculous, but it's the YouTube is this nature of being able to find an absolute niche in a lot of things that you really can't find anywhere else. YouTube is a platform where there are so many established creators for the the smallest of the small details, you know, like being able to find a YouTuber that specializes in this very specific thing it's hard to find that kind of creator on other platforms, like outside of the internet and stuff like that, because YouTube is just a broad audience now, right? It's a broad website with like tons and tons and tons of users. So definitely, kind of, I think, echo that point is that if you're on a platform where you can find someone that makes that smallest of niche that are really like their thing, where there's tons of content to be made off that one kind of I guess like style, that someone has, you almost like an audience grows a huge level of comfort knowing that is what they get from you. You know, that's always been the way I've seen it, is that like I make when I'm not doing Doom videos, I do very, 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 very specific video essays on like keeping old Mortal Kombat history alive, right? And it's like,
cool, yeah.
It's a very specific, very, very, very specific thing. But obviously, you know, it's kind of the thing that you can only really get from that content at the moment. You know, there's probably
like you're the only guy. You're the only guy putting those things out, and you do them really well. And like that's better than putting out a top 10 list of the sexiest Mortal Kombat uniforms. You know, like
you could always
you could do that and get a bunch of views on one video and then be miserable.
It would actually get monetized, like most of my content probably doesn't, but it's it's like I definitely didn't want to use it as an opportunity to like, you know, talk about myself or anything. It's more just like with such a specific platform, people get comfortable, I think, knowing that, you know, that person makes this cool content that I didn't really know about before, and you know, they grow a comfort that most videos that come out, if it follows that style, it's, you know, I guess that's where growth also comes from, right? Is that element.
Yeah, and the funny part is when you say something which is inevitable, but you know, you get that following, and then you make the video that everyone disagrees with.
Yeah,
and then you just get like this insane backlash. I've had like I've had like maybe, let's say, half a dozen really bad videos where I don't know if it's maybe I missed the point of something and I just didn't say it from the same way as other people, but yeah, I've had a few of those rough ones. They're the ones that really test you, because it's like you're either gonna just go, okay, look, I made a video that maybe I was off, maybe people didn't agree with it, kind of move past it, or you really let it kind of like bring you down. You think, oh, you know, you start getting insecure. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, man. Yeah, it's a funny kind of
bro. Didn't you know about the boss's weak point? Jesus, I thought you're a real gamer.
Yeah, it's even worse when they take things you say out of context. Like you probably had that a bit with the Doom Eternal stuff. Did you get the same thing, Spud, where you'd say something in your video, and I don't know, like there's certain things I was trying to talk about with the combat, and people misunderstood what I was saying. And it's that's another crazy thing about it. If you can't really get your message across correctly, sometimes.
Like you know the amount of time we had to play with the game, right? When we did the previews, I hadn't fully grasped all the meta of the game, and I took the angle of not the overall package. I focused on gameplay, so I had like my first impressions of the gameplay, and I was like, well, this is how I see the meta so far with the weapons. And then give it a week into everyone playing the game, and the meta completely fucking changed. Like it was like, you know what I mean? It was this combo with this weapon and that, and yeah, the actually like because I remember at the time saying I thought the shield for the chain gun was not that really resourceful. Just slowed you down and and dude, yeah. Well, I didn't find like in our playthroughs, I didn't find
get to use it that much.
Yeah, I didn't get to like there wasn't. I didn't have any opportunity to use it against, say, like a Doom Hunter, where it was like pretty resourceful, or the bosses at the end, like the Icon of Sin. So
and I said the ballista. I said the ballista was bad, not bad, but I said the ballista wasn't that good in my preview video, and then I played the full game. I was like, dude, what the fuck was I talking about? This
exactly. And then months later, people will hang that shit on you. I had that on streams, like, dude, like the chain gun's actually pretty good. I'm like, yeah, it is. I can't take it back. I said it.
It's been interesting because 2016, I mean, in my experience, it didn't feel like that. I felt like the weapons were the weapons. But in Eternal, like here we are 3 months out, and suddenly, like, there's stunning microwave beam weapon switch combos, and there's the full auto mod is like I have a playstyle that's like entirely built on the full auto mod of the shotgun now, and just like I liked that the game had mods and certain playstyles and strategies that didn't seem obvious, and again, like a good fighting game. I compare Doom Eternal to fighting games all the time. Like a good fighting game, there might be a character that everyone thinks is low tier, and then a year later, someone's like, well, actually, if you do this, and then suddenly the character's top tier. I feel like Doom Eternal has ingredients like that, and that's one of the more interesting things about the game to me.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about it is when you chat to different people and they all say, like, oh, I hate this enemy so much. Like, for me, it's the whiplash, the bloody things with the chains and that. But my mate, I can't remember the name of them, but the things that put out that little defensive shield, the guys on little
carcass.
The carcass.
Yeah, a mate of mine is like, dude, those things just kill me all the time. I'm like, what? Like, I never think twice about those guys kind of things. You know what I mean? Like, that just shows you the skill ceiling, I think, in that game and just how dynamic, like, every single encounter and every weapon is to every player. Like, it's like, I think I said that in my video, man. It just like evolved the game. Like, it just changed it.
Sure.
Like, everything that comes out after that's going to be that style of shooter is just going to have to really step up, man.
Have you been able to go back and play the game anymore? Because I know that you have so many videos and games that you have to play. You're not like, you don't have hundreds of hours in the game like we do. When was the last time you got to at least hop on?
I finished it on Ultraviolence and Nightmare, and then I did another Nightmare playthrough from Fresh, and then that was it for me. So that probably been like a month or so ago. Then I spent a little bit of time in the multiplayer, but I played it with another mate of mine who is just like a god at the game. I think, Spud, you know my friend Mayo, don't you? He's another really crazy Doom player. Yeah, this is a mate of mine who's been into Doom mods for like ever. Like, he's just an absolute freak. So we played the multiplayer mode on that, and dude, we were just smoking every Slayer we came up against. You know what I mean? But then on the flip side, if you play the Slayer, I think we were playing it before people had figured out that multiplayer fix, like the tricks in it. And every time I played the Slayer, dude, you just destroyed everyone. Like, there was no real challenge to it. I think coming fresh off playing Nightmare mode and then going into battle mode, you just destroyed everyone.
Yes.
I don't know if that's changed because I haven't played it for a while now, but last time I played it, it was unbalanced as shit. Like, 2 good demon players would destroy the Slayer, 1 good Slayer would just destroy the demons. So it's just kind of boring, and I stopped playing it.
Well, the thing about battle mode is, and one of the issues it had early on, and it is that the nature of a mode like that is like, what's the likelihood of having all 3 players be fully tuned into the mode? They know exactly what's going on. Like, it's very unlikely that unless you're doing custom games or a high-level Slayer is matchmaking with and just so happens to bump into a preset demon team, which again is not super likely. You aren't going to always get the full experience of the mode. So we do something every Friday, Tokyo Punch Out and I, Friday Night Fights, which is just I mention this every bloody podcast, but it's just community activity where we bring in 3 players every week that are super high level, and they grind it a ton, and we have them play 3 maps. They all record their POV, send it to me. It's then edited together to create a spectator experience by chopping their POVs together at the right time. And then we add some new, visual elements that shows like end of round upgrades and stuff they've taken and equipped and all that. And it's a pretty cool little piece of community content. That is absolutely, I think, the most kind of like the clearest example of what battle mode like actually looks like, because we've gone beyond just having it be 3 maps they play now, and now it's proper competitive playing to scores, because we've just started an invitational, which where we've invited 7 slayers and 7 demon teams. They play every week, round robin. Every week now we have a featured matchup on Friday Night Fights. We had our first one yesterday night, and like now they're playing 3 maps, and it's like rounds are counted. So now it's like, now it's not just pick your favorite maps or play in a row, depending on what the players want to do. It's however they wanted to represent themselves. Now it's like, now you're playing to a score. The competitive really begins, where if something's meta for you, bring it out. So we're seeing an absolute like shit ton of Pain Elemental and Marauder, because that seemed to be like the best combo right now.
And that's something that isn't going to be obvious to you in the first week or 2.
No, definitely not.
Game,
There's too much information. You have to digest it. Absolutely. But it's a big learning curve. And they've changed it with balance patches quite a lot. Like I just saw yesterday, I knew that I had heard there was a patch, but I hadn't had time to check it during the week. So I've just been too busy, basically. Like the Revenant has been completely changed, which is my favorite demon. And I normally play for the defensive set, where you get the armored skill, which is like it just makes you take less damage for a short time. I use that a lot because when you barrage with the Revenant, you're stuck in place, so you need to have that reduction to not be a sitting duck. But now I've noticed they've completely changed and buffed the hell out of the Revenant, but the catch is that they've taken the armored thing away and they've given him haste, so now he can move faster. So I'm like, this demon's like entirely, completely, totally different, and that was just one single patch. And the Marauder got changed a whole bunch. The Mancubus got buffed a lot, and it's like, and the patches are PC and console separate too, because the Slayer is different on console to PC because you've got different tools, right? You don't have mouse and keyboard. You can't have the same precision and movement. And the big thing is weapon switching. If you can't quick switch, the Slayer is naturally weaker on console, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So it's definitely an interesting mode. There's so much to learn. That really is the biggest thing, is that it's you can jump in and play if you're all new, but if even one person knows what's going on, it can be quite challenging for the others. And that's
I think
why
it's just got a case of Quakeitis, where all you need is like a 2% skill difference, and that's massive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, a good Slayer with the quick switching now is insane, like absolutely insane. Because little things now, like if you quick switch precision bolt with rocket launcher base shot, for some reason that speed between the weapon swaps is like faster than everything else. So you can go bolt rocket, bolt rocket, bolt rocket, like at that speed. And precision bolt does like 400 damage, I think it did. I can't remember if it was 400 or 500. And it's like, some demons have 2000 HP. So it's just like 500, 500, 500, 500. No, it is 400. It is 400. Yeah, just crazy, crazy good. But you are correct in that players can definitely hammer out like a nightmare playthrough and get the grips with it, and then do battle mode. And then while everyone else is learning demons, it's like, I know how to play now. I know how to shoot.
Yeah, it's almost like you're just, I don't know, man, you're schooling like other players, because the same tactics that let you rip and tear the shit out of demons in that single player, they just carry straight across into multiplayer. Even more so, I think, because as another human playing the demons, it's like you have no means sometimes to get the fuck out of the way when that thing's coming towards you. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's changed, but like you had like the meat hook with the fire upgrade from like the get-go, dude, like straight away from the first round. At least like stagger that to like the third round. It was just so broken from what I remember.
It's by design that the Slayer is meant to be powerful.
Of course, yeah.
But it's definitely on the demons. But to be able to compete against a Slayer that's very strong, like really knowledgeable of what they should be doing, the demon team, for lack of a better term, they basically have to be good. Otherwise, they're not even going to come close to winning. But once you've got a demon team that really understands how to kind of make that counterplay, there's demon teams out there now that are almost completely unstoppable unless they go against like the best of the best Slayers in the community. Because the best demon teams now, they quite commonly do rock, pain elemental, and marauder. They tend to go double aggressive, so you've got double hazard. There's like tech that you can do where the shield with the chain gun is quite unbalanced for Slayers. Like the fact that they can just pop the I don't die button at any point, but if he has the shield out and then the noxious hazard gets put on him, it takes the shield away, like actually forces him off the shield. So the hazard is great for stopping a Slayer from being able to just prevent damage from incoming. If you can put it down to shut down loads of areas. The burst damage of shield plus a push, a hazard plus a push is insane as well. So it's almost like the opposite end, where once you get a knowledgeable demon team, unless they fight the best Slayers, they become the ones that are like absolutely insane. Because the biggest thing is double team heal. It's just what everyone does now, is if you reach the power upgrade section and you both take team heal, it's 30% each way when you pop it. It used to be 25 for the teammate and 50 for the user. Now it's 30 for both. Because again, they changed it, right? But it's like both people being able to have that instant team heal on top of their aggressive stuff, and the fact that if you go aggressive, like Marauder has damage reduction and stuff like that. It's like, it's all very momentum heavy, where normally the Slayer is the one that pushes forward and just deletes. Now the demons can do the same thing, only if they've like mastered it. If they haven't, they might still have a hard time. But if they've really reached that point, they can be almost just as, if not more, against a lot of players. It's just a lot of knowledge, required to reach that point. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to rant about this too much, but a lot's happened in a short space of time, so it's changed.
Definitely sounds a lot
Battle mode
different
is Ketchup's thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, G-Man, you had a video on your channel about 4 months ago. It was Doom Eternal preview. You are not prepared for this. Where you, I mean, the title says it all. That Doom Eternal felt like he was changing the game in a way, and I mean, I completely agree that it does. It's been really hard for me to even play other shooters lately. Even a game I love as much as Doom 2016, I have a really hard time playing it. I just feel like Eternal really raised the bar in a lot of areas, and I'm curious as to like how did you feel when you start playing it? Could you kind of maybe walk us through what it was like when you finally had your hands on the game, and what stood out to you?
Mobility is like probably the biggest thing in that game that's kind of ruined other shooters for me as well. And that's actually kind of why we're talking about Siege before. The reason I love Rainbow Six Siege so much is because the amount of mobility in that game for like a tactical shooter, even though it's not tactical anymore, but for like a tactical shooter, like you can lean left and right, you can crouch, you can go prone, you can sprint and leap over things. And then Doom was like the opposite of that for the other style of shooter, which was like those more fast-paced kind of horde shooters. And I mean, you talk about Doom 2016, you look at the two of them, like Doom Eternal's not only ruined, those style of shooters, but it's just ruined Doom 2016. Like that game, I'm not going to say that game doesn't have merit, but going back to play that after you've played Eternal and you don't have like the dash button, you don't have the grenade and the ice grenade and being able to use the flame belch and stuff like that. It was just, for me, playing it, and I think Spud would be the same. Like the first time we played it at that Sydney office, they were trying to like explain to me the controls, because obviously they have like a spiel that they have to run through to everyone who comes in. Like, hey, you press the R button for flame belch, you press control. But I was looking at it and it was like, yeah, dude, like I didn't want to say it obviously to sound like I was arrogant, but it's like, I know what I have to do. Like I don't need to be told how to play this game. And as soon as you start playing it, it's like you've already been playing it for 20 hours. Like it's just, you pick it up like second nature. It was just that feeling, man, of just going in there, and every element of the game to me felt really good. You know what I mean? Like switching weapon mods and swapping weapons was just like quick and it was responsive, and it's the most important aspect of that game, because movement is avoiding damage, and it was just something that they nailed. So yeah, man, it's just one of those games where I didn't have to sugarcoat or pretend I liked it. It was just easy to talk about it because it just felt like it nailed all those aspects from the get-go.
I remember London. I remember the London version of, because we had the early access capture as well, where you get invited down, play a set build. I think we all played the same build. I think, but I recall pretty much the exact same experience. The only difference for me was the new mechanics and the new stuff you had to use. The second I got a hold of it, my brain was like, yeah, when I get this at home, I'm definitely going to have to rebind some of these keys because I can't stretch my hand out that much.
See, I'm 6'7", 6'6". And I used to play piano, dude. I got like freakish hands. So for me, it's just like, yeah, my keyboard looks like it's a little like calculator. I'm all sweet,
Hell yeah, dude.
When I got the dash, sorry, Ketchup.
No, I'm just going to say I'm not very good at the big spread. I've got to put a lot of my keys very close together, and the ones I can't put on the keyboard, I have to put on my mouse because I can't multitask like to that degree.
I was going to say when I picked up the dash, like when I first started playing Doom Eternal, I was like, this is great, this feels great. But as soon as you get the double dash, and you get into that next fight that has a Hell Knight in there, and you suddenly realize that like the Hell Knight is in this arena to teach you how to use the dash, and like I was just thinking, this feels so good. It feels so natural. Like you said, G-Man, it feels like I've already been playing it. Like I was just so easily able to slip into it, and the fact that they don't just give you the dash. They give you the dash and then put you in a quick little platform area so you get used to it, and then they put you in a combat arena that is claustrophobic with a hazardous ground area that you don't want to touch. Or something.
Yeah.
And you've got the Hell Knights coming in at you, and you start just like naturally using the dash defensively and offensively, and like I don't know, it's not just the mechanics, it was the way they designed the game to make you understand how, like instinctively, how solid the mechanics are and how necessary they are.
Yeah, well, it's like an offense or it's a defense. I mean, you can zap towards someone to get a faster glory kill, and obviously you can just avoid like 99% of attacks. Like it's just such a simple control, like idea mechanic, but it just makes the combat so much better. And now like every game has a dash move, dude. Like that you played Ultra Kill, right?
I did.
Like Ultra Kill's got dash, and there's this new game coming out called Hell Hunt, which is I don't even know how to describe that. It's kind of like Quake meets Clive Barker's Jericho, I suppose. And that's got a dash move. Like every game now has a dash move, because it's just, I don't know, that's like the next step, isn't it, for shooters? Like you just can't go back to just strafing around. You know?
Well, speaking of mobility, how long did it take you to like get into the meat hook? All right, because the meat hook is like fundamental to the enjoyment of the game. But like my first playthrough, like every time I tried to use it, I just kind of threw myself into a bad situation and got killed. I know Ketchup, you said that you didn't really use the meat hook in your first time.
It took me pretty much an entire playthrough before I realized not only that it was good, but it took after my entire Nightmare playthrough to realize that flaming meat hook was even better. So I'm a bit ashamed to say that it took me, because it was so ingrained into my 2016 brain to not use that kind of mechanic. Sure. It just wasn't in my muscle memory. So every time I tried to use it, I just couldn't figure it out. And I
don't think you're alone in that.
It took me a long time.
I think the meat hook is something that was like, oh my god, this is amazing, but it takes you a few playthroughs to like really figure out how to use it, like in the synergy of everything. G-Man, did you have a similar experience with it? Like you said, you played through the game like 3 times, now twice on Nightmare. Like by your third Nightmare run, where you were like swinging around like a madman and using like meat hook super shotgun combos and stuff.
The first upgrade I went for was, I think if you master it, you have to master it to get the flaming upgrade, I think. But that was like the first thing I went for every single time. I mean, like I had this thing where I would freeze enemies, and I'm sure this isn't a unique strategy, but you'd freeze them with the frost grenade, meat hook in, and then hit them with that, and you got like this massive refill of like armor and health at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like that was like my go-to gun, man. There's something just so satisfying too about meat hooking into like a really tough demon. Do you know what I mean? Like something like, because like I think I kind of like semi role play when I play these games. Like I kind of get in the action, like I try to take it kind of seriously, like I'm in the moment. So I was like, yeah, fuck this, I'm gonna like charge right into this like cyber demon dude and just like meat hook straight into this motherfucker. Like that's the way I play. So I found that way more fun, because it was like fitting with the setting of me playing as this like, you know, unstoppable warrior, man. So dude, I was all over that from the get-go.
The ultimate power
Spud's
fantasy.
the same power fantasy, bro. Exactly. Right, like you would have been the same, right? I gotta assume you were meat hook from day one.
Yeah, man, can't get enough from the meat hook.
There's a joke there, but
right there. I love it, mate. No, mate. Doom made me. I'm all over it, man. Like it's just crazy the amount of momentum you can get from it. And it's good for like console. Yeah, go on.
Can I tell a funny story about that city made up? Right, like when we went back for a second time to play it, remember they said, oh, we could play the Slayer Gates, and me and Spud were like 2 or 3 guys, I think. I don't know if I can say that, but they didn't invite many people back, right? We were like very select list, and I turned up that day, and they were making us play the Slayer Gate on Nightmare. Was it on Nightmare? It was Nightmare, yeah. Yeah, and so they go, it was just like, by the way, dude, like as soon as I started playing, I was getting in the groove, and I was like, I had a coffee, I sat down, I'm like comfortable in this chair, and they go, oh, just to let you know, like Spud finished this without dying. As soon as it started, I was like, what? And I was like, he's like, yeah, dude, he finished the first go. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what? Okay, so, and dude, I think it's a Slayer Gate where right at the end, like one of those like little ghetto cyber demon dude spawns in. And I killed him, but it was one of those situations where at the end, like you just get boxed between like a couple of imps, and I just lost it right at the end. And dude, I can't put into words my disappointment. I just looked over at the Bethesda guy, and he's like, dude, like,
he's just like, I don't want to let you feel bad. Spud did it.
He's like, mate, Spud first go, and then another guy comes in and goes, oh, did you die? He's like, oh, mate, Spud did it first go. What's going on here? I was like, my reputation was ruined.
But that's the equivalent of like, you know, just going like, oh, no, I slept with your mum last night. Wait, what? You know what I mean? Like just before you start playing, you know what I mean? Like, wait, what do you mean? You did one go, what?
Yeah, they waited until the loading screen to tell me that that's what had happened. It's like, come on, man, I need some time to mentally prepare for that. You know?
There was a moment I was lucky in that playthrough. Like when I look back on the video of it, there's like I do go to 10 health in one like situation. But as you're like well aware in this game, all you need to do is just, get a belch and a good hit on one of the tankier demons, and you're already back in shape,
Yeah.
But like, turn into the meat hook, the flavor of the meat hook. Jokes aside, man, like I feel the reason why I love what they've done with the game movement wise is that it's still, because like coming from like the original PC days, like PC FPS days, the 90s, like a lot of them are fast, very fast paced shooters, and that slowed down when consoles came into the mix because it's just too awkward to play at that speed and aim at the same time, or not even just aim at the same time. I just feel like the mechanics of using a controller and the meat hook and the dash, it brings that speed back while still catering to that very large market, which is the console market. So I'm hoping like Doom Eternal really inspires a lot more games in the FPS scene to like embrace that speed and have mechanics that will, like cater to it without it like hindering it,
Man,
I don't know.
wish.
Like I just don't like. I can't see like a game like Quake being able to be played on a PlayStation controller. You know what I mean?
No, not competitively anyway, for sure.
Yeah. Whereas, what they did with Doom Eternal, it really, really does it. So, I don't know.
Doom
We'll see.
Eternal, Doom 2016. I mean, they play well on console. I played Doom 2016 on PlayStation before PC because I didn't have a good graphics card at the time, and I just eventually I was holding off. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna play it on console. I'm gonna wait. And then it was 9 months after the game came out, and a friend of mine had it on PS4, and I was like, screw it, give me that game. And I played it, and I was just like, this plays shockingly well with a controller. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, because that team knows how to design a game, but you're also not like zooming in sniper shots from 100 yards away, like it's shotgun and rocket blast to a big demon's chest. And so it just flows a little better than most console shooters, in my opinion. And Doom Eternal, I think, plays equally well, but the advanced tactics seem much harder to pull off for the average console player. I mean, those.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do a weapon switch combo of someone like super shotgun, grenade, ballista, rocket, grenade, switch back to super shotgun, and then do a microwave beam stun, like it's tricky. It's really hard on a controller.
It looked pretty impressive, though. I can imagine someone doing that pretty gracefully, though. Yeah. The only platform I can't get behind is the Switch, man. Because my partner's got a Nintendo Switch, and I've tried playing a few games on it, like a few FPS games. Tried like Wolfenstein and Doom. It's I don't understand how people can play it. I think it's something about the way you hold the Switch as well. Something about that controller. Like I can go all right with a Sony controller and Xbox, but yeah, the Switch is just like I'm not an advocate for shooters on the Switch. Let me just put it that way.
I use the Switch a lot, absolute ton actually, a lot more than I enjoyed the Switch more than I thought I would. I was one of its biggest, I was one of its biggest like doubters, I will admit, because I was burned by the Wii. You know what I mean? Like I was Nintendo's biggest fan for ages and ages and ages. And while my mates were playing 360 and PS3, I got a Nintendo Wii and I felt betrayed. You know what I mean? But that's because I wasn't into that kind of. You always know that Nintendo try new things, right? And that's very much a better or worse situation. And for me, I saw the Switch and was like, oh, here we go again, like another weird gimmicky system. But then when it comes out and it's right as I'm kind of in full swing of because I'm like a professional commentator, right? So I used to travel a lot. It was almost at least once a month I was flying somewhere for an event, and I started taking my Switch with me. I got the Switch with Breath of the Wild, which blew me away because that game is easily one of the best games I think ever made, in my opinion. But I used it exclusively for travel. And I travel around with my brother, Mustard, a lot. And we used to sit next to each other on the plane and just separate a Joy-Con each and then play Mario Kart split screen. We played through the whole of Mario Kart and everything else and whatever other games I wanted to get. And it was like, once you use the Switch as like a travel device, it's probably the best travel console you can use. Because it's just super convenient, fits in a bag really easily. Considering it is a handheld, it's remarkably powerful for something that can be played on the go. And if you just buy a cheap, you can buy a cheap dock on Amazon for like 15 quid. That it's like a regular dock, but it's something that you just plug into it, and it fits. It's tiny, and it just fits into your Switch case, so you can take it with you and and put it on a hotel TV or whatever. And it becomes this really weird kind of convenient thing. It's when you try and play it like a standard console, that the lack of power, like very much I agree with. Like I tried playing Doom on Switch. Not only was the FPS not that good, and definitely not so good to the point where it was quite off-putting for me. But I tried doing multiplayer, and that thing ran at like 15 FPS. Apparently they've patched it since, or they had done. They'd done a performance patch. But
have you played MK11 on Switch? I have.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes, I have.
I played it for about 2 minutes.
Dude, I play Noob Saibot in that game, and every time he does a move where his clone comes out, which has like loads of almost like black ink effects, like the second Noob Saibot does any of his special moves, the frame rate just tanks. So you can't do any combos with him. You can't do like any. You just can't really play it, because anything that involves you having to react or do a combo or whatever, the frame rate just drops because your character has too many particles. It's like, oh great.
I was on a bus ride across the country to a national major in Mortal Kombat 11, and my training partner was with me, and he pulled out the Switch. He's like, hey, you want to practice for the tournament? I was like, oh, sure, Switch, okay. And so we tried it, and we started playing, and I looked at him, and I was like, are you trying to sabotage me? Like, because this feels terrible.
Most competitive MK11 players have the Switch version, and they actually use it as a portable training mode.
Yeah, it's training for like research and some tech.
Yeah,
stuff.
they don't use it for grinding. They use it to go into training mode and set up specific situations. Because frame rate or not, you can still find out stuff like that. Yeah, pretty cool.
Do you guys think Doom Eternal is ever going to come out on Switch? I've been an early doubter of this. Like I'm just like, I don't think it's ever going to happen, because I cannot imagine this game. I know how well it's optimized. I know how well it runs, right? But like I said, I've played Mortal Kombat 11 on Switch, and I thought it looked awful. I thought it ran bad, and I'm trying to think, like, Doom Eternal is like a next generation game. How do you get this thing running on Switch? Like, it must be hell trying to get this thing to run on that console. Is this game going to come out?
I mean, I think you'd break your Joy-Cons trying to play Doom Eternal on the regular one. You'd need a controller for the sake of your own console's well-being, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully not.
Hopefully not. I hope it does. I want people to play it.
I'd hate that to be someone's first way to play Doom Eternal was on a Switch. I think that would be tragic. Like, I've seen the way that, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not trying to be elitist, but it's just not really the way some games are meant to be played. It's most shooters belong on the PC and on selected consoles, I think. But yeah, that's about it.
I'd like to bring up something. This is more of a YouTube content creator question. So the three of us here in this podcast kind of do different content. Ketchup does like strategy stuff for fighting games. He does a history of fighting games, and Spud, I guess you're more focused on like your speedrunning content and strategy. And I'm doing my own kind of like tech analysis and opinion review. And G-Man, I know how labor intensive it can be to put together these kinds of videos, and your scripts are really solid. Like, they're really clear and entertaining. And so, like, as someone who makes also like big 30 to 40 minute like review opinion pieces, when I watch your videos or other people who do something similar, I'm usually listening to like their scripting process. And so I was wondering if you could explain a little bit of maybe your creative process. Like, how do you put a script together when you've decided on a topic? How long would you say it takes to put together something like your series review of House of the Dead, or your reviews of Resident Evil 3 or Doom Eternal or something like that?
Well, I mean, the House of the Dead thing, an absolute mission to get done, because that was, I guess, look, it kind of depends on what the platforms are primarily. So the House of the Dead thing, most of those games are on the PC, which I already owned, so it was just a matter of capturing the footage for them. It's when you start getting into consoles and older games, and I mean, like, the 360 and the PlayStation 3, they're pretty easy consoles to record footage off. I don't have too much experience with the PS4, but the games I did capture on it, again, it was pretty easy. But with PC gaming and consoles, once you start going back, it gets kind of tricky. So a lot of the time is just spent in just trying to figure out how to get the footage working properly. Like, I've had instances where I'll spend half a day playing a game or capturing something, and of my own fault, like, you go in there and you check the footage and you've messed something up. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't recorded audio properly, or so that's always a bit of a dilemma. The main thing is definitely like the scripting and the editing, because I have like a weird format when I write scripts, in the sense of, like, I don't start from the start. I just sort of open up like a word processor thing, and I'll just start typing. Like, so if I'm talking about like the House of the Dead game, for instance, I'll just start typing what I think about this game. And then when another thought comes to mind, I might go back a bit and type what I think about this game. And then once you've got, like, you know, a few pages going, then you start trying to form it into structures of where you want to start talking and where you want to finish talking. But all up, man, like, it's hard to say, because it's not really a one size fits all process for every video. Like, something like Resident Evil 3, that remake that came out, which, if I can just quickly say, was a piece of shit. I thought that was appalling. But anyway, just a side note. But, like, that was pretty simple, because I played the game twice, and it's not a long game. I think it took me like 5 or something hours of run. And so it's what you're looking at, 10 hours of game time capture. Then you write the script up in a couple of hours and edit it. So that's pretty quick. But then you go and do longer games. Like, we've got things coming out this year, like, I don't know, like Cyberpunk, which I'm assuming is going to be a huge game. Like, it's kind of then going to be dependent on just, I don't know, how much time you want to put into the game before you start covering it. And I think, really, to be honest, you should, if you're going to review games, you should really finish the game, right? Which is what I've always tried to do. Even with those older games, like, I feel like you don't really have the precedence to talk about it constructively or in any kind of frame if you don't really know it from start to finish. That's kind of the way I approach it. So, man, as long as the game's got to go for, as long as I kind of got to stick with it. I did the Far Cry series recently, and those old Far Cry games on the Xbox, dude, they go for like 20 hours long, man. They're so long. What was it with games from like that time period of just going for like 20 hours? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I remember Far
there,
Cry Instincts. That was one of my first. I think that was probably my first Far Cry was Instinct.
Yeah, and I played it for I don't know how long. Like, I sat there for like a day playing it and capturing it. And then at the end of the day, I was like, dude, I got to be getting pretty close to finishing this thing. And I looked up like a walkthrough, and I was up to like mission 6 of 14. I was like, come on, man, you know. But yeah, I guess, like, to answer your question, it just depends on game to game. But it's not so much like intensive as it just is. I don't know, after a point, and I guess you guys can all agree with me, you just get to a point where you just kind of get over it sometimes. And you know you should be doing more stuff to stay productive, but sometimes you just like, I can't really be fucked editing right now, you know. So it's kind of depends on where your head's at, I think, a lot too, which people don't really talk about too much. If you're in a bad frame of mind, like, you're not going to be editing as quickly or capturing as quickly.
Dude, that's a huge mood. Like, it's actually it's quite relieving to hear someone else actually say that, because, like, it's the same thing for me, because, like, I've got 2 series, 2, I guess, forever ongoing series. And one of them is the sort of the competitive history of one of them is, like, obviously the competitive history of an entire old game, you know, and that's the whole shebang, right? That's the modes, the game. That's like the casual stuff, first of all, like some cool things about the roster or the game modes or whatever, just to kind of set the tone so you know what the game is. And then the mechanics, which is kind of low-key teaching you how to play the game. And then the rest of the video, which is like, the rest of the 3/4 of it is like, right, what was the tech? What was the broke shit? What made the game competitive? What was the high level? And that can go on for, how long is a piece of string? It depends on how much depth the game has. And because the entire direction is keeping the competitive history of many, many games where forum posts have been deleted, the YouTube VODs are gone, Twitch VODs are gone. The only way of knowing now is to know the right people that grew up in the arcade era and just talk to them extensively and have them teach you the game and give all of their stories and put it into a cohesive way that everyone can understand. That takes the research of that alone for me takes a few months most of the time, because you've got to learn the whole thing and you're on other people's time. You don't want to bother them. You don't want to take up too much of their day. But you do need to ask them a lot of questions and then learn it all yourself. And some of that stuff's really hard to execute. So it can take me weeks to learn the right stuff, because, I'm not going to be satisfied making it live until I know that what I'm saying is genuine shit. It's proper information. But then when it's time to put it all together and edit it, that's like, if you're in a really, really shitty mood, doing that much content, it just takes forever, right? And it's almost completely counterproductive. But then you feel bad, don't you? Because then you almost feel bad where your audience are like waiting on the next video, and you almost feel bad that if you take a single day to like ease up a bit, you're like, that's another day. People will be like, oh, when's the next video, man? Like, you know what I mean?
Dude, it's like, honestly, real talk, I think YouTube is incredibly sort of self-destructive if you think about it, because once you start trying to make YouTube videos, like once you get into that point where you're like, okay, like I really want to make good content, you're kind of setting yourself up for like disappointment. I think even if you're an optimistic person, like the way I look at it, it might sound a bit grim saying it, but it's like no video ever gets the right amount of views or the right amount of comments. And even when you get that video, you're like, oh, this video's doing really well and I'm getting a good response. Then you're just in the back of your head, you're like, fuck, like I need to do this next week again. Like it's setting yourself up for just disappointment, dude. So yeah, like it's sometimes when you start and you start editing another video and you're just staring at that blank timeline in Premiere or Sony Vegas, like it's daunting. And I have a lot of people ask me sometimes, like guys who are doing YouTube stuff, and they're just like, oh, what would your tips be? And I said, dude, just do it. Do something that's fun to you. Like that's about all you can do. Like I think if you just start getting to the point where you're like, I'm just doing videos, or I'm just creating content, or I'm just streaming because like I have to do it, like that's when it's just going to start going the opposite way where you want it to go. Like, you should be enjoying it, right? So yeah, but it is a weird thing. Like we're kind of like, when you make videos, you kind of like seeking validation in a way as well, but you're still trying to share content, but it's like a two-way street. It's about you sharing information, but you kind of like the fact that you can see people enjoying what you're making. So it's a weird thing to be involved in, dude. Like no generation has done this before, like what people creating content has done. No, it's crazy.
It's a performative thing. Like, it's the same kind of feeling as someone writing a song or directing a film or creating a cartoon series for the TV. It's that same, like, I'm making something I believe in because I would do it regardless, but I'm also invested in seeing that other people are enjoying what I do. A singer on stage is gonna have that same sort of emotional spectrum, like as a YouTube video creator would.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. Making stuff that excites you is always the number one, isn't it? Because if it excites you, there's a good chance it'll excite someone else. And if you're excited to make it, then there's probably a good chance that you're gonna, you might have the chance to put that extra little piece of flair, like whatever it could be, anything that just makes that video special because you enjoyed making it. Especially, we pretty much all do the longer content too, right? I don't think any of us are able to shit out daily content on the platform.
No.
I did for about
not
3 weeks when my channel started blowing up. I was like, holy shit, I need to
I
keep
do
this
reaction
going.
videos to Mayo's content.
No, but Mayo, like, how did you? The thing is, on that note though, right? Like, how much sleep did you get in that 3 weeks?
What is sleep?
How much time did you have to
It was
do anything that wasn't stuck?
It was rough. I was putting out like 5 to 6 videos a week for about 3 weeks, just to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna show people that I'm here, that I'm dedicated, that I'm not a fluke. And then after 3 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break.
It's been interesting actually to me to have everyone in this call have a very kind of like similar content length. I think we're all in a very similar boat with like the unsung stuff. Obviously, for the record, on the absolute off micro chance there are people listening to this podcast that are familiar with the stuff that I've done, it's like I definitely don't want to sound like I don't enjoy working on the stuff that I do. Like if I didn't enjoy what I was doing, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be doing it as regularly as I was if I hated it, right? But it's there's definitely elements to it which I don't know, they don't get discussed much, and it's kind of like an unsung thing about work to life balance, and sometimes
it is work. It just happens to be work you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Yeah.
And the work you enjoy, it's sometimes is harder in a weird way. You know what I mean? Because like with this field, you're on your own to an extent. You know what I mean? You don't just rock up and have a boss give you a paycheck and you do what you say. You've got to evolve with the world that's evolving with you. Your own business.
Being your own boss is hard when we're in lockdown and all the days merge into one.
Yeah, that too. But it's I think the YouTube life is fascinating. I'm still very green on it myself. I'm just a little baby fawn. I'm waiting for a few new games coming out that I'll main with it. So I'm having a bit of a break with it and focusing on my stream. But I can see how it can be rough on the likes of say G-Man, like when you're like there's a bit of a break in games you have no like interest in whatsoever right now. Like you said before, the next couple months is a bit dry. Like what are you going to do in the meantime? I assume like mod corner stuff or
there's a couple of like I think part of what got me a little bit of a following was that I talk about indie stuff, and I'm like like some of the best shooting games are indie games, man. Like Dusk is what attracted me again to like getting into indie shooters, and then you had so many games that kind of like followed suit with Dusk. You had like Medieval, which was obviously the same crew, but like even now we're getting so many of those like retro throwbacks. So honestly, there's so many games I could be covering, but again, it's just there's only so many hours in the day, and I'd really like to start getting into those kind of videos where do you remember like Total Biscuit used to do videos where he'd just play a game for like half an hour and he'd just talk about the game while he was playing it? Like those kind of like live commentary videos. It's almost kind of like streaming, I guess, in a sense, but I've tried. Yeah, but not even that, but it's just like it'd be like a 20-minute video and you just play through a game and it's just your kind of like thoughts while you're talking. But I don't think I have the strength to do not the strength, but I don't think I have really like the skill set to do that. I think what I'm able to do well is write scripts and then talk about a game after I've had time to assess my thoughts. I don't think sitting there live and kind of coming up with things off the top of my head is really what I'm good at. So I'm kind of limited to the sense that I have to play a game and then I have to be able to write a script. But if there's not that much of a game to play, then you know what I mean? There's not that much to talk about. Like as much as I love that Gloomwood demo, and Gloomwood is looking awesome, but dude, I was struggling to find things to fill that video with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas someone could go in there and sit down and spend 30 minutes playing through it and give this really cool, funny playthrough where they're commenting on things. And like I saw one guy playing that game and he picked up one of the enemies and threw the enemy down a toilet. And apparently if you do that in the game, then the corpse then comes out in the sewers when you go down the sewers later in the level. It's like, who the hell's going to think? I would never have thought to do that, man, to flush an enemy down the toilet. That's just not the way my head works.
Someone had to put that in the game.
Yeah.
Someone had to go, yo, I want to be able to flush someone down the toilet. And not only that, but they need to have consequences.
But even back when Dusk came out, like the same, like similar devs I think are working on it. Like in Dusk, you could flush toilet. And I played through this whole, like, they sent me like a preview build, and I played the preview build that goes for like maybe like 30 minutes. And then I watched other people playing it, and the first thing one guy did was try to flush the toilet. And I was like, I never thought to do that. Like, it's just not how my brain thinks. I don't walk into a game and go, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going to see if I can flush that toilet. And he was doing weird shit too, like throwing, I think he was one of the people who figured out if you throw soap at someone in that game, the soap, there's always like a hidden bar of soap in every level.
Yeah.
And if you guys, you throw the soap at someone, it kills them in one hit. And whoever I was watching play it figured that out. And I was like, how the fuck do you, like, where do you get that thought process from? You know, so yeah, I'm very limited in that sense, man, where it's my content's grounded in something has to have enough content for me to create stuff off it, or at least be able to talk about it, you know? But yeah, the AAA scene, dude, is complete dog shit at the moment, you know? So there's nothing happening there, especially in shooters. Like, what's the next shooter that's coming out? I don't think we've got really anything for the whole year, to be honest, is there?
I mean, Cyberpunk is coming out in 2077, as far as I'm aware now, with all the delays.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
That's
you know
November,
what? I got a
think,
hunch,
and-
dude. I got a hunch I mean, they've delayed it so many times now they can't delay it again. But there's something telling me that it'll come out next year. Something else will come up.
Well, they're waiting for the
That's
PS5.
what, 3 delays now?
Yeah. They're waiting for
Hmm.
the next gen consoles. So honestly,
guess,
and I'll call it ahead of time. The game it'll have a good story because I think those Project Red games always have good stories. But the gameplay in The Witcher 3, I'm just gonna say, was fucking shit. Okay, maybe not shit. Let me take that back. But the gameplay was not great in The Witcher 3. The combat's not good in that game, but the story is fantastic.
I'm with you. I was not really into the way it played.
But the story, right? Like the characters and the side missions is awesome. That's what keeps you captivated. But as soon as you have to fight someone, it's like, okay, it's the same rigmarole of like putting, fucking arse oil on my sword or whatever the hell I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's going to be the same thing with Cyberpunk. I think it's going to have really cool, like interesting characters and missions, but I don't think the gameplay is going to be that groundbreaking. But that's the same with Deus Ex. Like, go play Deus Ex now, man. The gameplay of that is tragic, but the characters and the writing like is what keeps you playing, So yeah, it'll be the millennial version of Deus Ex, I think. Cyberpunk.
I mean, I guess it's a bit of maybe a redundant question because pretty much none of us are console. But what do we think of the PS5? Did anyone catch the reveal? The games that are out there? What do we think?
G-Man, you want to go first?
Is it a router?
The only games that interest me on it are games that I hope are going to come to PC anyway. I mean, I'm not really that much into console game anymore. I was when I was younger, like I was a Sony kid. And even then it was only because I wanted to play the Metal Gear Solid games and they were like exclusive to the consoles. But Kojima's off making, I don't know what the hell he's doing anymore. And I didn't bother with Death Stranding. So for me, it's like a wash. I'm not really too fussed about the console. But that game that's coming out that I think Arcane Studios are making, that Deathloop game, looks pretty awesome. And the word is that it's going to be a PS5 exclusive. So I'm almost going to have to get a PS5 to play that because I'm not going to wait like a year for it to come to PC. So I'll buy one by necessity, I think. Sad as that is, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I felt, and I don't mean this in like, I don't mean to sound like that guy, but I felt a little bit alienated watching the reveal because like, it's probably more my fault though because I have such a specific taste in games. Like, if it wasn't an interesting multiplayer game, or I mean, a fighting game for sure, I was kind of surprised there was no fighting game announcement at all. I know that's normally down to the publisher themselves. They normally don't wait for console reveals. The last time that ever happened, I think, was like when Killer Instinct got announced at E3, like back in like 2013, I think it was 2013 or 2012. I can't remember what year it got announced, but that was announced as an Xbox One release title, and I think that's the last time a fighting game actually was ever announced in the lineup. But it's with this giant new console release, I kind of thought maybe we'd get something like a massive curveball, like a new Bloody Roar or something, because I know Sony, I believe, still have the rights to it, or at least one of their companies does anyway. So I was like, I had everything crossed just for something, but obviously, there wasn't anything. And every game, as amazing and remarkable, like graphically and visually, that almost every game looked, it was not a lot of it was the kind of game that I play. I'm not really much of a single player guy, least of all like single player third person adventure. I used to be when I was a kid, but I guess the older I get, the more I'm into like very specific kind of, arena style games or fighting games or whatever. And they're like what I like. And sometimes I'll differ away, but there were some games that looked absolutely sick, but yeah, for the most part, it was like there was just a lot of games that just aren't really my kind of genre. So I think I'm still waiting to see if there's any big games that makes me go, right, I am buying this console for that game, because right now it's not quite happened.
I think I'm on the same page with you. I mean, there were games that look really good. I mean, they look great, but I don't know. There's nothing that really grabs my attention. Most things don't really grab me anyway. Like Horizon looks good. Horizon 2 or whatever, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or whatever it's called. But the thing is, I would want to play it on PC because I tried playing Horizon on PlayStation 4 and I can't. I just can't. I can't use that bow and arrow with a clunky plastic joystick. And the field of view, like I'm just desperate to widen the field of view, and So like when I see Horizon 2, I'm like, I want to be excited about that game after I finally get to play the first one on PC. Like that's the extent of my excitement about it.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 8 I was excited for, but it's coming to
That
PC.
looks. I
Oh
want
yeah,
to
I
see
forgot about
more
that. Yeah,
of
Like,
that.
that's
Yeah.
definite. But that'll be on PC. That'll be
Yeah,
on PC
exactly.
for sure.
So PC is the one I'm getting it on. I mean, that Kenna Bridge of Spirits game looks cool. I think I've just got a bit of a soft spot for the things that follow you around, though. Because my fiance was just like losing her shit over it because she just loves soft little cuddly things. So the game was good, but yeah, it looks. I'm really impressed by the hardware. I'm just really still waiting on that big game that makes me go, oh my god.
Yeah, and consoles need the next what do you call it? Halo. Doesn't have to be Halo, but that kind of
They need God of War
big
2,
Hallmark
or
game.
they need a big name.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
still
I've
time.
kind of I don't know. I've kind of just been turned off by AAA gaming. It's something, just the things that came out for the PS4, and it just seemed, I don't know. They became less like games and just more like, I don't know, man.
Experiences.
That's exactly right. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is the perfect example, and I loved the first Red Dead. Like I had it on PS3, and I platinumed it on PS3, and then my PS3 broke because it just died because I had the original model. So I platinumed it again. That's how much I loved the first game. And then I played the second game, dude, and it was just like I can appreciate the amount of details in that game, like the world building and all that kind of stuff, but it just wasn't a game. It was just this like cinematic, like storytelling driven sort of you know what I mean, game where it's like the gameplay took second fiddle to them trying to just create a film basically. So, and that just seems to be the way the game industry is going. That's why I have no interest in The Last of Us 2, because it's getting more notoriety for its story than its gameplay. I mean, aren't we playing games for gameplay? You know, there should be notoriety because of something cool or innovative it does with the gameplay. But I remember they were tweeting about it ahead of launch, and one of the biggest things was like, hey, The Last of Us 2 has a jump button. It's like, motherfucker, welcome to like 1993. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, that was, who the fuck put that tweet together at Sony? Like, hey, check this out. Let's let everyone know we have a jump button now in The Last of Us 2. Like, come on, man.
Now put it back in God of War, please.
Like
Interactive movies.
Oh yeah, and it's it should be talked about for something innovative it does in the gameplay. Not the fact that, I don't know if I should say the spoilers, but we all know at this point. But not the way you trash your own fan base and you know, ruin your own characters. Like, it's offensive the way that they've treated that. You know.
I've got people on my channel asking me if I'm going to do anything on Last of Us 2, and I'm like, I sold my PlayStation 4 last January. If someone wants to let me borrow a PlayStation 4 in the game, I would be happy to check it out. But I'm not motivated enough to go looking for it. And I really liked the first one. Like, it was a good
first one's great, yeah.
one-time playthrough experience, you know?
Dude,
but I'm not foaming at the mouth.
You ever play a game on grounded difficulty? It was like the super hard mode they brought out like after launch. That was awesome. That's like, if you want like a super hardcore crazy experience, that's the way to play that game. You've got like,
I hadn't heard of that.
2 shotgun shells and 3 revolver rounds and maybe like 1, you know, grenade or something. But yeah, dude, it was so much fun. But yeah,
So, there's I mean, there's a few little nuggets out there. I don't know if this counts as indie. Is Diabolical on your radar? Being a old school FPS
sort of Champions looking game. It's like the multiplayer.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's like it doesn't look like Quake Champions. It's like little egg robots. Yeah, the egg game.
But it's like an arena shooter, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, not really. Like, I don't want to use age as an excuse, but like, I think I'm kind of getting to that point where I don't really have the reflexes for the multiplayer shooters as much as I used to. Like, that's why I love Siege, is because you can play really well in Rainbow Six Siege, and you can get 9 kills in a match.
More of a cerebral game,
which is really high. Like, getting 9 or 10 kills in a match is insane, you know. And you can get that by just playing smarter than other players and knowing the map layout and flanking and that kind of stuff. Whereas, you know, you go play Quake Champions, and I haven't played it for a while, but I'm assuming the majority of kills are gun on gun in that game. It's not like you're just sneaking around and outplaying someone by shooting him in the back, right? Like, it's generally gun on gun combat. So, I'm a little bit. I'm just a little bit rusty on those arena shooters, man. What's that other one that came out? Valorant. Valorant's the same thing. Like that game just feels like a ghetto.
Yeah.
I loved
How
your
remake
post on
Counter-Strike.
Twitter about that. You posted
It's-
about that. It was like the most like soulless game you've seen or something, right?
Well, have you ever seen like a game where like it has the weapon screen and every weapon is different, but the icon is exactly the same, and it's like looking at a magic eye puzzle or something where you just see the same symbol repeated like 50 times, but then if you focus your eyes, you can actually see what you're trying to see. Does that make sense? That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't know, it just felt too much like Counterwatch. You know what I mean? Like a bit of Counter Strike with Overwatch in it. Like
And
it's both games, but the best of nothing. If you know what I mean, like a jack of all, but best of nothing. I can't speak because I've only literally watched someone play it. So
I'm in the same boat. It's for me. It's like
it had muzzle flash. I don't think it has muzzle flash. That was one of the things I remember. Or the muzzle flash is barely noticeable. Like you have no feedback when you're firing weapons. Weapons just kind of shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's more about being able to see the sort of spray pattern or something, isn't it? In that game, I think it's the same as CS:GO, right? I mean, I'm gonna have a very ignorant take here because I don't play either game. It's of the nature of I've seen people, I've watched clips play Valorant, and I've got very good friends that play it and they grind it a lot and stuff, and it's just like. For me, it's just like it's just not my kind of game. Like neither is CS:GO though. You know what I mean? Like those really, 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 really slow-paced FPS. It's just not for me. I'm a much bigger fan of like faster games. You know, kind of in general.
It doesn't even really have an artistic vision though. Like when I look at it, I'm just kind of like, oh, that just looks normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's those kind of games. I guess it's more about it's very clearly, I think, designed to look simple, though, right? Because it's like, you know, the more clear cut information you have, the better for a lot of like the players. They know that a lot of players. It's common for loads of players to like turn their graphics right down, and even if you go back and look at like old Quakes, like the graphical settings that players have, it's like down to icons alone, and that's it. Where it's like there's a very clear direction, I think, for a lot of modern esports. You know, I use the term esports because they're very much made to be esports. That they're not going to be super crazy detailed because the whole idea, I think, is to just almost like block the game out, so it's all mechanics, so it's all stuff. But I guess that's the mechanics of Valorant. It's like it's all stuff that players of that genre that enjoy playing those kind of games at a high level, like. You can only assume that's the stuff that the community would want. They don't want it to be overcomplicated. But with that in mind, definitely not my cup of tea. So it's like, I like Doom Eternal because of how it looks, because of how it feels. It's a gorgeous game, but it's visceral, it's colorful, but it's got the right amount of edge. The same thing for Doom 2016. Quake Champions is edgy as hell, and I like that. Like, look, my favorite games are Mortal Kombat, Doom, and Quake. Like, I'm not gonna look at a game like Overwatch and be like, oh, that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
It's just not. You know what I mean?
Hey, that brings up a good point. Something I have here in my notes. Speaking about like visual looks and getting back to Doom Eternal a little bit. So Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 have. I mean, they look similar, but they don't. Like they have different visual presentations, and I'm a big fan of Eternal's like exaggerated look, but like Spud, I think that you more favor the more serious tone, right, of Doom 2016. G-Man, where do you fall on that? Are there things in Doom Eternal's visual presentation that have a look that you prefer, and are there things in 2016 that you prefer?
That's a very good question. Jeez, I don't know, man. Like, I can understand a lot of the critiques, I guess, that people had about Eternal. Like, the one that I seem to be hearing a lot of was about the whole thing about the icons sort of spewing out of enemies when you killed them. There was like a grittiness to Doom 2016 that Doom Eternal definitely lacked, but I mean, I don't know, man. You're talking about a game at this point where like demons have taken over Earth, and it's like a one-man army story about one dude in like a super suit going around killing one and saving the planet. Like, I don't know, like how seriously
and double dashing around like an anime hero.
Yeah, like how seriously can you take that story? Like he's got blades on his arms and a flamethrower on his back. I mean, the first story, it was a little bit more gritty because it's like, he's been woken up out of his sort of trap thing, whatever you want to call it, like the coffin of that. And it was kind of cool. It's like, yeah, UIC is using hell energy as an energy source. It's like, cool, I get it. That's a bit more gritty, blah, blah, blah. But it's like at this point, yeah, we've gone into like comic book mode, man. Like you can't have
Yeah.
that aspect of the gameplay where it's so over the top and it's so cartoonish, and you're snapping at someone's bone out of their arm and then stabbing them in the face with it. Like, you can't have both pieces at the same time. So I look at it in the sense of like, no, go ahead, Spud. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, just like the thing I thought, like, if you saw the No Clip documentary with interviews with Hugo Martin and Marty Stratton, there was lots of commentary about how they were really trying to find what Doom 2016 was going to be. You know, it went through so many iterations, and they felt like they'd played it safe in a few aspects. And when it came to Doom Eternal, it was like all the puzzle pieces just came together. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they always envisioned with that game.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of get with Doom Eternal. Like, I actually feel like if they were a little bit more comfortable the first time round, like they knew what the audience wanted and they knew what they wanted, I think we would have got something like Doom Eternal when it came to like that, you know, the arcadey kind of style of demon slaying. But
yeah. Plus, I feel like I don't know. Doom 2016, they couldn't have known. I mean, realistically, man, they couldn't have really known it was going to be as well received as it was.
No, they were nervous, right?
Yeah, but exactly. But I mean, with Doom Eternal, it's like, look, we know people loved the first game. If we just build upon what we did there, it sort of can't go wrong. And that's pretty much what happened. You had some people who were like, oh, I hate how they changed this. I hate how they changed that. But it seemed most people sort of embraced those changes, especially with the whole thing of like using, you know, the lesser demons for ammo sources. I still find it so funny when people are like, oh, I always run out of ammo in that game. It's like, dude, like, there's literally ammo with legs walking past you every 2 seconds. It's no one's fault but yours if you run out of ammo in that game. So,
and the better you play, the less you need to chainsaw too. So it's actually pushing you to become a better player.
That was the craziest thing too about replaying that on Nightmare. I think I spoke to Spud about this that time where it's like, I finished it on Ultraviolence and I was like, dude, like Ultraviolence is like pretty fucking hard. I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to finish this on Nightmare, but you played on Nightmare, but because you understand the game so well, at that point, Nightmare is just like nothing. I haven't finished it on Ultra Nightmare because I'm not a freak like Spud is, or, you know, other people who finished it. But yeah, like once you understand that game, and once specifically the Marauder, like people were bitching about that guy forever, but it's like once you understand how that works, the game gives you every mechanic to kick its ass, to kick the game's ass. You know what I mean? Whereas you don't necessarily always had that in Doom 2016. So, yeah.
No, it's funny. Like once it felt like the cat was out the bag with that demon, the Marauder, when people discovered the ice bomb shot over his shoulder to turn him, and then the lock on first with the rocket launcher. It's like it's gone from like this epic 1v1 situation to just deleted instantly. So,
is that any strat? You can shoot an ice bomb?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you try to react to it.
Yeah,
wow. Like they are taking it out, aren't they?
Have they?
I heard that they're taking it out.
Yeah, I've heard.
If they do, it makes sense. Yeah,
but even if it's being removed, so what happens is basically you shoot you have the lock-on burst ready, and then you shoot an ice bomb over him. He then turns around to like absorb it, and while his back's turned, the lock-on burst hits him and it staggers him. So you can lock on twice and just delete him.
That's great.
But even without that strat, like, you know, now it's just wait for him to go into it. Just keep him at arm's reach, and then when he goes in for attack mode, because every time he gets into attack range, he almost 100% of the time will attack. So you just go ballista, SSG ballista, or whatever. Do that twice and he's dead. So obviously, you know, you can still kill him super fast. The three of us have cleared Ultra Nightmare in this.
There you go. I'm the odd one out. Yeah.
I'd done it more recently. I'd segmented it first because I didn't have time, and then one random time on stream a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know, I was a few drinks in. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do Ultra Nightmare and see how far I can get in one run, and did it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a thing now. Made my fiance mad because I was supposed to spend the evening with us, and I was like, it's only gonna be a short stream, don't worry. Ultra Nightmare. Yeah. But yeah, it's like it's just. It's what you were mentioning with the combat puzzle, those big demons. It's funny how we mentioned the whiplash. I think we really reach a point where, like, the first big enemy that everyone's like, I hate it, was the Marauder. But then the more you play and the more you learn the game, it's like the whiplash and the archvile are the true enemy.
And the carcass.
Yeah, that's like the whiplash.
My favorite, my man, my number one.
Like
I love him, but
boss.
God.
So you're anti-carcass, You're an anti-carcass guy.
I mean, they make the game better. I do like them, but I love to hate them because it's like the shield
I don't think I've ever had issues with
hilarious. My biggest issue is it's the spinning melee. If you get close and you just so happen to get knocked against a wall while it's doing its stupid Beyblade thing, It can do like 100. I was doing I lost an Ultra Nightmare run on Super Gore Nest because there was one carcass. I had literally full stack and everything, and I'm like, this carcass, I must quickly get this. Missed a shot, and before I could even realize that I'd missed the shot and I had no ice grenade to stun him, he just spanned me, and I lost 100%. From an absolute 100% to 0, he just spanned me, stuck me against the wall, and I absolutely like died. It was so bad. I was so mad.
I love him because he doesn't have like as much HP as like a Hell Knight, right? I mean, he's a heavy demon, but he doesn't have that much HP, and you can just meat hook in and get a really nice close single double shotgun to the chest, and he's dead. But the thing is, if you don't get it just right, he survives. And now you're face to face with him and he just starts spinning.
Start to wind it up, the pull the cord. Actually, on the note of the carcass, I don't know how this is going to work for podcast reasons, but I have a clip here, which I've just captured over the course of this. This was yesterday during Friday Night Fights, our first week of the Invitational. The Demon team were up 1-0 and they'd rocked double Marauder on Penance. They were just about to deliver the killing blow to Hey Kyle on the second map of the final round, and the carcass decided it wanted to start playing the game. I've put the link in chat. I can send you the link, Mayo.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
It's a tiny clip, but you'll notice immediately what happens.
I'm looking at it. Okay, I see. Okay, I see the shield down there.
So right as the final shot's about to land,
no, he gets blocked in.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, he has a lot of impact
nice.
in that map in battle mode. Such a tiny map.
Like, dude, the carcass is just the MVP of Doom Eternal. Like, I was so close to death, and I turned around and I was looking for a health anywhere, and I found a big health pack there in the corner. I ran towards it, and the carcass put the shield in front of the health pack, and I couldn't get to it. And I turned around and I got smashed by Dread Knight, and I was dead. I love him so much. He will just totally screw your day.
Yeah, no, I've sworn off the one life hardcore runs, man. I tried to finish Max Payne 3 on it has a hardcore mode where you got to finish the whole thing in one sitting. And I got to, I don't know if you've played the game, but there's like, it ends in like an airport fight. And there's a bit where you go into the scripted event and this guy shoots at you with a grenade launcher, and the game froze when I got hit by the grenade launcher, and the game just, like, my computer just locked up. And ever since then, I'm like, I can't deal with it. Because I got rage issues as it is. But I think if I was playing Doom Eternal, then I'd be like right up onto like hell on earth, and I get killed by a whiplash, I would probably throw my computer out the screen, out the window. I live on the 5th floor of my apartment building, so I'm going to kill someone if I throw it out the window. So.
It also doubles up, what we just talked about like the grind it can take to make a video in the format that we all make, right? It's like one of the things I experienced during Ultra Nightmare was I'd finally have some time, and I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to do Ultra Nightmare. I'm going to see how I do. Get like 3 hours into a run or something and die. But then the moment I die, even though I enjoyed reaching that point, my brain just goes, Ryan, how productive could you have been with this 3 hours that you just spent doing a playthrough that now is gone? Like, every time you lose a permadeath mode, my brain immediately goes into, Ryan, you could have spent that 3 hours working on a video, This was quite the mistake, wasn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, man, it's a lot of work for like such a tiny bit of clout. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. you post that picture of the gold suit. You're like, I did it. And people are like, yay, and you're like, oh.
No, it's over. No, it's over. I didn't even use the gold suit, man. I used the red suit.
Dude, I've been working on G-Man. I have this rule set that I made for 2016 called Brawler Mode, which is like. I prohibited certain things. It wasn't just no mods or no upgrades. It was like, okay, you can't use this specific mod, you can't upgrade this specific thing, just to kind of like craft the game into a certain kind of gameplay. And people have been asking me to do it for Doom Eternal, and so the past couple of weeks I've just been dedicating myself to figuring out what this Brawler Mode rule set is going to be for Doom Eternal. And it's like a list of like 20 prohibitions. And I've been on it on stream practicing this just to make sure it works. And there's that room in Final Sin where there's like the 3 cyber demons,
Yeah,
the 3
yep,
tyrants,
yep.
right? And I was on stream last night or the night before, and I was in there for an hour and a half. I was in there for an hour and a half because it like there's no ballista, there's no there's no super weapons, there's no health and armor upgrades,
BFG.
and it was it's that kind of rush that I'm looking for, after you've played the game for 250 hours, right?
Yeah.
But it is pain at the same time. It's incredibly fun, but it's really, really painful. I like going for those sorts of challenges.
That was one of the most like epic moments in that whole game, man. That last they just pulled they did pull any punches on that last level. Yeah, that whole bit when I think as soon as you kill a certain amount, then it's like another one of the mini cyber demon things spawns in, and then it's like a marauder fight on it's like a marauder fight on the next bit above that, and that whole level is just even the start of that level, man. When you jump across that rooftop, right, and it's just like this constant barrage of just never-ending demons. It's
there's a Doom Hunter and a Tyrant in that first fight.
Yeah, it's next level shit, man.
Speaking of sorry, Spud, you go.
No, I was going to say that the one of the arena fights and it has a totem in it that's sort of timed halfway through the fight, and you're nowhere near that. It just cleans you up, and I honestly find that room harder than the actual Icon of Sin fight. So for me personally,
it is.
It's just.
You know what? If I didn't.
BFG.
If I did an Ultra Nightmare run, honestly, I reckon I'd be sweet, but I know where I'd die. And the level when you're on the what's the Khan Maker's like home planet or whatever?
Urdak.
Yeah, the bit in Urdak when you bounce across, and as soon as you land, there's one of those totems. 100% I would die there, because even playing that on like Ultra,
it's a rough room,
dude. You've got a beeline straight towards it, and even then, you just get destroyed by whatever's there, because it's just you're constant. As soon as you land off that little bouncy thing, I remember you're just under attack. And it's like I would be playing that and I'd be doing really well, but like I'm very insecure. So in the back of my head, I'd be like, dude, I know this thing's coming up, and I'd like almost talk myself into failing mentally.
You just need to make sure you're extremely well practiced in the room. Like when I first cleared it, I had a nightmare playthrough that was going at the same time, and well, in the segmented one, I had a nightmare playthrough that was going at the same time, so I could practice each level before going into it. So when I'd practiced it like 3 times in a row and nailed it, sorry, hiccups, I was like, yo, I'm ready now. And I'd dive in with like fullest of the full muscle memory. And then when I did it live, before I normally use the BFG in that room. I break the totem, go up top, and then shoot a BFG into like the cyber mancubus and everything else and whatever. In my live run, where I did the whole thing in one go, I accidentally used my one and only BFG shot by mistake on an imp in the room before. So I had to go into that room like my method that I normally do. I had no BFG, so I go into that like. And it's on stream as well. I'm like, I can't die now. It's like, it's late. I want to go to bed already. Like, I can't lose. It's like, yeah, it was the worst. I had to just, do everything else, but yeah, it didn't go to plan.
Urdak is tough, and like it's.
I think it's harder
those
than
first 3
personally.
levels. The first 3 levels are like those are the hard ones to get through because you're so limited, right? And then once you get into the groove, you can kind of handle yourself. But like even then, you're like Urdak, man. Like
it's because it's
like things can go wrong
arena
really
fight.
quickly.
It's never ending, dude. Every fight in that, it's pretty much a level entirely constructed of the most ridiculous arena fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big threat in that is
Final
those what are the little not the Khan Maker like drone things.
Oh, the
Maker drones.
Yeah, man. And when I was playing on Nightmare, the amount of times I didn't die that often, but the amount of times you're concentrating on trying to headshot those things and you just forget that there's like, a Hell Knight just right next to you that's taking a chunk out of you. He's like, I'm gonna get the headshot, but it's like your FOV zoomed in on this dude's head with the assault rifle, and it's like, oh, okay, yep, there I just lost 90 health in one hit. So, yeah, I don't think I could deal with that on a permadeath mode.
Do you have a favorite level? And,
without a doubt. Phobos base, man. The Mars, that complex is like fucking amazing. The music in that, like that was that first trailer they revealed at QuakeCon.
Yeah, man. Like, you can't be here.
It's just the most it's the most epic moment in that whole game, and the fact that like this for some reason, man. Like when I hear, because you hear like the radio chatter and that of like people in distress for some reason. And again, I'm going to sound like a weirdo saying this, but like because I kind of get in the power fantasy and I kind of role play a little bit, get in the character I'm playing. But coming in. Dude, like, come on, man. Like, you just want, when that elevator's going down, you're like, fucking let me off this elevator, man. I'm going to fucking, you know what I mean? You're just ready to kick motherfucking ass. Let me out. Yeah. It's like, let me out of the goddamn cage and let me kill shit. And there's that bit where you go up the ramp and you turn to your right and then the BFG's firing in the background. And there's just this, like, that large open area where you go up and then, like, a Mancubus spawns in and I think, like, an Arachnotron just, like, jumps up. And, dude, that's like a playground, man. That's just, that's the best level in like any FPS game that's like ever been made. The music, the scripting, the pacing, because I think you get the BFG at the end of that level too, and that whole sequence is like incredible. Man, it's
I mean, the thing is, it's crazy to think that's just part one of the level because you then go straight into Mars, right? Because you shoot the hole into the surface of Mars.
You can't shoot a hole into the surface of Mars, man. Look.
And then you teleport, and then you're there. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then it sets in and you're like, oh, wait, like this, I did all this. Yeah. Like, this is all my destruction.
Isn't it? I think there's a line in one of the like cinematics in that when Samuel Hayden's like, he says something, oh, maybe it's Vegas or something like, you know, you can't shoot yourself through this or something. You can't hop in the gun and he just like kicks the thing out of it and just hops right in.
That is a weapon, not a teleporter.
That's it. Yeah. He just like, boop, and just jumps straight in. That, encapsulates how cool that character is, man.
You know, like there's, you know, going back to like the art style changes and stuff, like the game has more of like a tongue-in-cheek sort of nature. It's a little more comic booky, a little more arcadey, a little more cartoonish, exaggerated. You know, I have a friend that just recently I helped him like put together a nice gaming PC, and the first thing he wanted to do was play Doom 2016, and he played it through, and then he went to Doom Eternal, and he was just like, this is better in every single way. And he was like, and I really, really appreciate like how like over the top and like not so serious that Eternal was, because he's really tired of games like feeling like they're like, you know, self-important or pretentious, and he's also a comic book artist, so he really got into that. So I think there's a good amount of people who found Doom 2016, Doom Eternal's over-the-top, exaggerated nature, almost kind of like a satirical nature, to be refreshing in a world where things seem like every game has to be like dark and gloomy and really serious.
Well, it was like a self-aware game almost, in the sense of like, I mean, that reveal, you know, sort of 3/4 through the game where it turns out, you know, you're spoilers, you're the original Doom Marine. Like, you would only get that from a game that was aware of the kind of audience that was playing it. You know, it was like, well, at this point, let's just embrace the craziness. Yeah, okay, you're the original Doom guy, and now you've been trained by these guys to become this unstoppable, you know, demon warrior. Like, it was just handled so tongue-in-cheek, but not to the point where, it felt dumb. It was still kind of cool, and it was still kind of serious, but it's like, let's have fun with it. Like, let's have a weird demon, you know. I mean, the funniest part, too, when you think about it, like the bit when the Marauder first shows up and he comes out of that portal, for some reason, the Slayer decides to stay back, even though he could hop into the portal, right, and just leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, dude, you have no reason to stay and fight this thing, but he's like, no, I'm going to stay, and I'm just going to let him give me a 50-second monologue. You know, when the dude's like wide open for an attack, it's like, let's just embrace the stupidity at this point. It's like watching the Terminator and RoboCop like stare each other down at this point. It's just so fucking dumb, but whatever. Like, that's where the game's at, and it's fun.
You can do that in MK11. Now,
I can't believe they got what's his name, Peter Weller, to voice RoboCop.
Yeah.
I might actually have to get back into Mortal Kombat now, because, you know.
Well, actually, RoboCop is very simple. He's not complex. I play him, and it's just so they have interactions. Obviously, they kind of reference the RoboCop versus Terminator old game that existed on like Genesis or something.
Oh, I've got that game.
Dude, that is so good. It's one of my favorite Genesis games.
It's referenced in the intro between Terminator, where like RoboCop says, "Have we done this before?" And Terminator says, "I have no recollection of a previous encounter." And Peter Weller's like, "We have met. I am sure of it." Like, that's it. Yeah. But he's very not complicated, is RoboCop, and it's even someone who, even if you don't play like, you know, competitive level or whatever, he's very simple to pick up and play. Like, he hasn't got very big combos or anything. He's mostly just shooting his gun. That's pretty much what you do with RoboCop, is shoot the gun.
Dude, can you imagine? Because like the last Mortal Kombat game I played, honestly, was Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo. That's literally the last game I played because I just never got with it. But can you imagine like going back to that version of yourself and saying, can you believe that one day it's going to be you taking on RoboCop versus Terminator in a Mortal Kombat game? It doesn't sound possible. Man.
Well, dude, they have the monopoly on guest characters because the last Mortal Kombat MKX, their guest characters was Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, Alien, and Predator were all in it.
It's awesome.
So
and they got the Shang Tsung actor from the film to play.
Yes, correct, Kerry Tagawa. Yeah. And in the recent DLC, that's so cool. He's one of the main characters. So Kerry Tagawa is like voicing an entire story mode. It's like, oh my god, so sick.
I love it that they commit to it. They're like they could have gone with any like something modern or like something that would appeal to like younger audiences, but no, they went RoboCop. We're going RoboCop because RoboCop is awesome.
They know their audience, I think, in terms of it's like a lot of boomers playing it. Yeah, but what was the other thing they added in recently? Was I was going to say someone re-edited the trailer with the original movie theme. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah,
dude,
yeah. There was a time where everyone was redoing the music for the trailer because it's definitely different extremes of music, because a lot of the trailers had like one genre, and then a lot of the competitive activity has another genre, because the competitive tournaments were sponsored and supported heavily by Roadrunner Records. So a lot of tournaments had like metal and stuff like that playing in trailers, like Trivium when Spawn had his, because Spawn's in the game as well. When Spawn had his big trailer, Trivium made the music. They had some music that was used, some new music that was used for the Spawn trailers as well, which is pretty cool. But it all depends on which kind of music you like.
What was his name? The guy played Spawn in the movie, which was an absolute train wreck. You ever see the Spawn?
Michael J. White.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, they had Keith David. Keith David's the voice of Spawn in the game, who was like a real.
Oh, he's been the
voice of Spawn for a long time.
You did that in Something About Mary, I think, too, right? And he was the guy to Call of Duty. I think he plays the sergeant. Is that right?
Keith David. I mean, I know he's done lots of voice work. He also played Childs in The Thing. That was his first film.
Yeah. He was the dad in Something About Mary at the start of the movie.
Wait, that was the guy. That was from the first Spawn movie.
No, that's Michael J. White. Michael J. White was Spawn in the film. Michael J. White's like a martial arts. Right. A martial arts actor. He's had some small roles here and there. Like in Dark Knight, he played Gamble in the scene with the Joker.
God, I remember Spawn. That movie.
The movie was tragic. Yeah, they used the same CGI shot 20 times of hell in that.
But it did produce a very, very good Marilyn Manson single, "Long Hard Road Out of Hell."
Yeah, right. I'm not familiar with that
one. Very, very good song. It's a good song and a good video too.
But you want to talk about like video game characters and like the thing, like you've obviously seen the original film, but they ended up making like a video game sequel to that, which no one really knows about.
2002, right? Came out?
Yeah, man.
2011?
This thing, no,
it was about the game.
Yeah,
the game.
So
I remember I could never find it. I always wanted to play it as a kid, but I could not find it.
Dude, if they had have accomplished what they were trying to do with that game, it would have been like groundbreaking. Everyone would be talking about it. They were trying to make it where, because it follows on from the film, so you go back to the the Arctic side or whatever, wherever the film took place, and you find out that neither of those characters, Kurt Russell or Keith David's character, they weren't actually infected. Because you know how the movie kind of ended, like, is one of these guys infected?
You don't know. Yeah.
But the movie just goes, neither of them are, and then it kind of explores what's happened. But they were trying to make it so every time you played the game, like a random NPC that you would interact with because you were exploring the space would be infected. So one time you'd be playing through the level, then suddenly someone turns and tries to like attack you. You know what I mean? But they had this thing going where it was supposed to be randomly generated, but I guess like the technology at the time just sort of couldn't support it. But yeah, man, it's one of those like really good examples of a video game based off a film that actually turned out really well, because considering most of them are, pieces of shit.
There was a trust thing, wasn't there? Like if they didn't trust you, you could perform the blood test and stuff like that. I'm sure it was.
You could give someone, because you were like the sergeant or whatever of the squad. So if you gave someone a gun, they would trust you more because it showed that you trusted them. But something somewhere broke down. So if you gave someone a blood test, you'd say, okay, this person's human, but then 5 minutes later they turn into a monster anyway. So it was like a concept. They hadn't quite polished it and perfected it, but it was an awesome idea, man. Yeah.
Still, how buggy it was kept you on your toes because you never fucking knew anyway. They're always going to jump out on you.
Yeah.
Quote McCready, nobody trusts anyone now. We're all very tired.
Yeah.
I just gave this guy a test and he tried to kill me 5 minutes after. What's up with that? McCready out.
Yeah, but one of the features in it was if you tasered someone, because they were like, people would have nervous breakdowns because like if they walked around corpses or there was like the sights of mangled bodies or whatever, the other characters would have nervous breakdowns and freak out. You could zap them with a taser, and for some reason that would make them completely normal again. It's like, I don't know much about how tasers work, dude, but I don't think zapping someone.
Get your shit together, man.
Like, hey, look, man, zap them. And they're just, okay, yeah, thanks, man. I'm all good now, bro. Like, I'm sweet. Like, you know, it's not a slap in the face. You're zapping someone with 10,000 volts. But
that reminds me of like the Resident Evil games. In Resident Evil 5, I remember there was that achievement for like getting maximum trust with your partner, and no one could figure out like how do you build like trust with your AI compadre, and like what was it like? It was in reference to the old Resident Evil Outbreak series, where to build trust in the old Outbreak games, you have to say thank you when they give you stuff.
Yeah, like 100 times. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's how you would get people to. And the more AI would trust you in Outbreak, the more they trust you in Outbreak, the more they would help you. Because sometimes if the AI didn't trust you in Outbreak, which for those that don't know, Outbreak was just a co-op survival game with like set scenarios in the Resident Evil universe. It was originally intended to be like online only. It was going to be called Resident Evil Online, where it was like a 4-player co-op scenario survival. But most people didn't have internet connections, so it was just a AI experience where it's you and then AI. So like, they didn't trust you, and a zombie bit you, and you could go, there's like a help command where your character goes, help, help. The AI would look at you and go, no, and then just walk off. They wouldn't help you at all. They wouldn't even try and save you ever, unless when they gave you items that you asked for, you used the thank you command and thanked them, and then they would trust you. So then they would save you. So in Resident Evil 5, where people are like, yo, I can't get Sheva to trust me. I don't understand what's going on. You have to say thanks when she heals you or when she gives you ammo. And then if you say thanks enough, like, it's so weird. These weird mechanics, dude. Like, they're just, I don't think that would exist in super modern games these days, but it's like the weirdest link to things that just don't make sense.
No, they'd worry about telling a, 45-minute long cinematic about why they build trust or something, and someone would pick up a guitar and play it in a movie for 15 minutes. That's what would happen instead. You'd sit there and watch them, building trust. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, game.
Help. No.
Yeah, there was a thing in Resident Evil 5. Yeah, you could, every time she gave you an item, you could give her a thumbs up, and she'd be like, "Thanks, partner," or something like this. And I remember I used to spam that all the time. She'd just be like, "Thanks, partner," like over and over and over. I was simple minds amused by simple things, man. When I was younger.
Hey, G-Man, you're a fan of Fear, right?
The original
Fear,
the FPS.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Is there any game with better enemy AI than Fear?
Oh.
A game that's 15 years old, and I feel like there's still no AI that surprises me like the AI does in Fear.
That's a good question. No. Short answer.
I mean, is that an indictment
I don't know if it's
AAA studios or what?
I don't know if it's an example of like more intelligence or just I guess it is intelligence, but it's more just like it's kind of part and parcel of just like the environment itself was designed in a way where the AI has so many options. Because I mean, if you put them in a different environment, they wouldn't appear as intelligent. But I think the level design kind of plays into that in the sense of you've given them this arena where they can go to this room, they can go to this room, and then there's this for cover, and they can interact with that. And I think it's more like the perfect storm of interactive elements that makes them seem smart. Because one-on-one, you can just kind of charge into rooms in that game and just destroy everyone in slow motion before they've even reacted. So,
sure.
Yeah, but no, definitely, man. Like that game still, I kind of recommend that game to people like every couple of weeks when people ask me about. They're like, "Oh, what sort of like FPS game should I check out?" I'm like, "Have you played Fear?" Like that's like if I had to name like the best shotguns in a video game, I would say that like
the Fear shotgun is so good.
I think like the super shotgun. Now the super shotgun in Doom Eternal is probably one of the top ones, but that shotgun in Fear is just like insane. Like you shoot someone with that thing at close range, and they actually turn into liquid.
A mist.
Like they just like their body just like they atomize from being hit by the shotgun at the close range. Like they're getting sort of turned into like liquid form, man. Like no other shotgun has ever done that in a video game. Like yeah.
Hey, how is Trepang 2 doing? I haven't played the demo. I heard about it through your channel, but I usually don't like to get into like betas or anything. I want to wait till the game is finished and then I want to play it. But do you know? It looked really cool from the video you presented about it. Do you know anything about it? Is there any progress on the development of that game that you know about?
Not to my knowledge. I think that was more of a proof of concept. I don't think that's going to be like the full game, like verbatim what it was in the demo, because like you slide into people in that game and they pretty much leave like the Earth's orbit, like from the way the physics work. But you should definitely play it, man. The gunplay in that's like Spud played a bit of it too, right? You played through the survival mode and that stuff. The gunplay in that's like awesome. It is just like an updated Fear, but for 2020 basically. Yeah.
But they're making a full game on it, though, right?
Yeah, they are. But I think that demo was more of just like, this is what the full game's going to be like. It's what's that term? It's like a vertical slice or something.
Sure.
I hate that term, but yeah, I think that's basically what they were going for.
Okay.
But yeah, any game where I can run around in slow motion and shoot dudes in SWAT outfits with a shotgun you've got me hooked. You don't need much more than that.
Fear, man. Fear was so good.
And even the expansion packs. The expansion pack has
Extraction Point.
It
was excellent.
It has one of the best jump scares in any game I've ever played. I don't know if either of you guys have played it, but
I can't remember it.
Yeah, there's a jump scare in that game, and I almost don't want to spoil it. It's really early in the the expansion. And every time I play it, it's like I know it's coming up, but I keep forgetting where it is. So it still makes me like scream like a little bitch every time it happens.
Why does this happen though, G-Man? We go from No One Lives Forever, AVP 2, Fear, and then what happened to like Monolith Games, dude? Legit. Sorry, I had this toy next to me. I had to use it. But like legit, what happened to like Monolith Games? Like
I don't know.
Like, did they get sold out or something by the publisher?
Well, plus they made Blood too. Don't forget they made Blood.
Yeah, Monolith made Blood too.
They made like I've always said they were kind of like the crazy uncle to id Software. Like if id Software is like the daddy, like these guys were the crazy uncle. And I honestly don't think they get enough recognition for the stuff they've done. But like No One Lives Forever 2 is still one of the funniest games you'll ever play as a first-person shooter, and Fear is a fucking masterpiece.
AVP 2 is also amazing.
Yeah, the multiplayer in that was
the multiplayer mode in that was like mental, and I don't know. I think,
but they were all successful games. I don't understand why they disappeared, because I know Fear 2 and 3 were like for some reason a bit of a flop money-wise.
No, Spud, they didn't disappear. They did Condemned 2. They did Fear 2.
Yeah, they
did. And then they became the Lord of the Rings studio, and they've done Guardians of Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War, and they've been the Lord of the Rings studio for the past like 10 years.
Really?
They just underwent a big change, then I suppose.
Yeah, like they're the Lord of the Rings studio now.
Well,
they haven't made a shooter in a decade.
The original team who made like Fear and No One Lives Forever and that they made an indie game on Steam called Betrayer, which is really good, where it's set in like the 18th century or something, and you're like you're taking on these like zombie colonials or whatever you call them, colonists, I don't know. And there's like a weird hidden plot here about like witches and ghosts and stuff, but I don't know, man. I guess it's just like the industry just chews people up and spits them out. Like they're either kind of lucky enough to still be involved. Like, I mean, what happened to John Carmack and Ramiro and that? Like they're not involved in id Software anymore. Tim Willits has moved on. He's doing
those two they made F off money though. You know what I mean? Like
that's true. Yeah,
like John Carmack made Rockstar. Like they both made, because the cuts they had from the company, they made Rockstar money, and then what was it? I mean, John Carmack being such an intelligent dude that he is, I mean, they built the foundations of FPS engines, right? You know,
100%,
no, it's like there's still his lines of code are just like littered in so many engines. It's not funny whether it's from open source or just just teachings that's been passed on. Yeah, I guess he always had a fascination for rockets and something more.
But it again goes back to what I said. It's like Monolith just never got the recognition they deserve. Like they should be of the same reverence that those guys have, but for some reason they just never got the same. I don't know, like no recognition. Like no one knows about. Very few people know about No One Lives Forever. Like it's still one of those games where people are like, oh, like what the hell? I've never heard of this game. And the sequel's really good too. And like I said, I still tell people about Fear like regularly. Like, dude, check this game out. And it's amazing how people will play it for the first time and then come back to me and go, like, that game was amazing. Like, it could be a 2020 game in terms of how fun it is. It doesn't like it's not like going back and telling someone to play like Half-Life 1 or something where it's kind of got that age to
Fear
it now.
holds up.
Yeah, Fear is like, dude, this could be a 2020 game and it would still be awesome. You could still sell this today and people would play it and love it. Yeah.
I think with the new trend of remasters, like how movies are getting remakes, I think we'll see a lot more of it. I wouldn't mind Fear being remastered, but there's plenty of classics that could do with just a touch up to make it accessible on the latest.
I'd like a Fear remake.
Say what?
Like Fear is amazing, but there's only like 3 enemy types. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all offices basically. Like it's an amazing game, but it does have its limitations. I'd love to see like a full-fledged Fear 1 remake. Like take that foundation and do something new with it.
An office, yeah. You are right about that. Now thinking back, there's literally just corridors.
Yeah, it's just office buildings and 3 enemy types basically.
Yeah, man. I wish I could tell you the amount of times that I would like restart checkpoints in that game. Like I'd F5 and then I'd play a checkpoint and I'd feel like, yeah, I'm gonna replay that again. And then I replay it again, like the exact same fight sequence, and I just keep replaying it over and over and over until like I got it perfect or the way that I was like, all right, that was cool. Then I go to the next one. You're like, because every time you play it, it just handles so differently and things happen differently, and it's like this little weird sandbox where you control the action so well and the AI just reacts to what you're doing. Yeah, it's so fantastic.
Ketchup, did you ever play Fear?
A long time ago on the Xbox. It was definitely before I had a PC that could actually run things properly. So it was definitely something that my older brother played a lot more. When I played it was the sort of dissolving shotgun effect that I remembered the most. But I remember very little else from it. It's actually one of those games I've always been meaning to like get on my PC and play. Can you get it on Steam now? Like, how do you play it on PC these days?
I have it on GOG for like $5.
Okay, well that's probably how I'll do it then.
Yeah, it goes on sale on Steam for like $3, man. It's dirt cheap. Yeah, and you get all the expansion packs and everything. Yeah,
I've heard of it a lot. I mean, I played it as a kid. I'll say as a kid when I was like a young teenager, I guess. But like, I just don't remember it. I remember enjoying it, but for some reason not playing it much. That must have just been like I was playing TF2 and stuff like that at the time, right? So I imagine it just didn't keep my attention for very long. And when I say TF2, I was playing Orange Box on 360. I was one of the few that would play every day Team Fortress 2 on the Xbox 360. Just because I didn't have a PC and didn't realize just how different it was. Like back in the 360 days of Team Fortress 2, like you couldn't make lobbies with however many people you wanted. I think it was dependent on your connection strength or something. You had set amounts. Like some people could make a lobby that has like like 8 versus 8 or something. Like probably not even that, but I could only make lobbies that were 4v4 and that's it. It would not let me make it bigger or smaller. So like some maps wouldn't work as well unless you started the lobby. It was so janky. But when you're younger and you don't know any better, you don't realize just how different it is. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and play Fear. I really want to try it out again.
Yeah.
There was a highly underrated multiplayer experience that I wish I could have experienced on PC.
It was so good. The Fear multiplayer was great.
Well, the one of the most underrated multiplayer experiences that I ever played was, believe it or not, Turok 2008. Like the newer, well, I say the new Turok, a game that came out like 12 years ago now at this point, but that game's multiplayer was had no right being as fun as it was. It's just it was during the oversaturated multiplayer time where every game had multiplayer, loads of FPS were out, And there was just something about how it played, and the maps were cool. There was a big emphasis on like, enemy AI, like whether it was giant scorpions, whether it was different types of raptors that were in the way. Like it was all really, really fun. But it was at a time where everyone was playing multiplayer for everything, so it was like it kind of got lost in the void. But the multiplayer was definitely the best part about the game. They just shut down the servers really early, like super early on. They got those servers off, so can't go back and play it now.
That game bombed pretty hard, I think.
Yes, it did. Dude, it was if you treated it as a standalone FPS, it was actually quite fun. Like, the environments were beautiful, the dinosaurs were great, like, the guns, whilst uninspired, were very satisfying to use. It's just, it wasn't a Turok game. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest, that's the biggest problem I think everyone had, and myself included. Like, I loved the game as a standalone thing. I even went back and played it like, this year, a few months ago. I bought a disc drive and eBayed a copy and just, just played it for old time's sake. But yeah, definitely like a game that shouldn't have been called Turok in any way.
No, I think the only connection is your character's called Turok and there's dinosaurs. And
which isn't even...
literally the only connection, yeah.
It's kind of right, but even then, like, no one's ever called Turok, are they? That's the mantle. That's a mantle they have.
Was it like a Prey 2 situation? Because with like Prey 2, how Arcane Studios kind of, I don't even know if they bought the rights. So I know Prey 2 was originally supposed to be something completely different, and then Prey came out, and people were like, "Oh, well, this isn't Prey 2." But is it that kind of situation where they were just making a game that just happened to be called Turok, and people assumed it was a Turok game? I don't know, because it really has nothing to do with Turok, like the rest of the games. There's the comic books and stuff, and it's got no connection to it. Yeah.
I think honestly, it's very much. I think it was just made by a team that had the license, but just they didn't really research the source material. Because the thing is, even if you go and look at the new Turok that came out, I know I don't want to diverge this conversation too much, but like if you look at it, it's like the Lost Land. I mean, it's definitely like supposed to be a Turok game because they call things the Lost Land, and there are a couple of references here and there, and visually it's very much similar. But I think that there was the idea must have been it's like another world and there's dinosaurs. But if you go back and play the original Turok games, well, especially the first one, which I think it probably tried to have the most influence taken from, even then, it's very futuristic, but it's like the dinosaurs themselves. Like, you find dinosaurs in that game that have like laser beams and guns attached to them and stuff like that. It's actually a very much kind of like alien technology meets like dinosaur age, and that was like kind of always the direction. So this one was
Triceratops that has a rocket launcher on its back.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And then you look at Turok 2, and it was like even more down the sort of like futuristic road with like dinosaur. It wasn't really dinosaurs as much as it was dinosaurs now. And then you've got all these like the Primogen and all the technology. You go to the Primogen's light ship, the Hive of the Mantids. Like it's all very very, very, very technology, and it's just too maze-like, isn't it? I mean, I remember watching your videos on the remasters that Night Dive did, and they are for me very much like the definitive ways to play now because there's no fog and good frames. You know what I mean?
And they put markers in for the objectives as well. So when you're near an objective, it shows up. So there's no backtracking. There's none of that shit. Like it really is the best way to play the game. 100%.
I really want them to do I really, really, really want Night Dive to release a Turok Rage Wars release with online multiplayer. That'd be a lot of fun. I think
that would be good. Yeah, I reckon Turok 3 would be really good if they could do that, because Turok 3 is kind of a cool game, and it's one of those like it's almost like a Half-Life 2 before Half-Life 2 did it kind of thing, where it's like you move through the game world. Like it's very inspired by that. And then Turok Evolution, like I've never been able to finish that because it makes me motion sick because it's something about the FOV. I just wish they'd just create like finish that whole series, man. If we could have all those games playable, it'd be awesome.
Evolution was interesting. It was like, it's certainly probably as silly as it sounds, I think it's actually my least favorite Turok. I think gameplay wise, like just gunplay and stuff, I actually preferred the 2008 Turok. Because Evolution was a cool idea, but again, it was a game that it was quite blurry, wasn't it? Something about
Unreal 3 engine. Yeah, it's just one of those shitty looking games.
Very, very like blurry looking, almost like I hadn't fully loaded all the textures in, but that's just how it looks.
Yeah. That's and the FOV was like 50 in that or something. It was just offensively low.
I'd love them all to be like redone and remastered so we can kind of get like a definitive experience. Because I never played Turok 3 as a kid because I could never find it in any game stores. So like as much as I wanted to play Shadow of Oblivion, I couldn't. Like Rage Wars and Turok 2 were like my main ones. Rage Wars was the one I remember playing the most. I remember thinking Rage Wars had more enjoyable multiplayer than like Perfect Dark and GoldenEye. It was quite a hidden away little game was Rage Wars, but it was quite innovative for like N64 standards. It was quite fun. Anyway,
well, guys,
we've reminisced.
We've been on here for about over 2 hours now. We've been on here for about 2 hours now. Definitely. I don't know if there's anything else anyone wants to get to.
I kind of felt like, look, it was just the nature of having G-Man on it this time. I kind of had a feeling this would be that it would be our longest one yet, and we'd spend most of it just talking about loads of FPS. I kind of just felt like that would be the direction.
But you know where it all began?
Yeah.
Doom.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
man, that's where it all started. Yeah.
No, like there's so much more that we could all get into with like classic FPS games. Like G-Man, it's tempting to invite you back for another episode because I feel like we could just go on for another 2 hours about this stuff.
Yeah, I could tell you that like be cool with the trivia that the first one of the first nightmares I can remember having as a kid was a Doom related nightmare. And the funniest part is, and this you'll sound like I'm bullshitting, but like I had a nightmare where I got killed by an imp, like the old Doom imp. And dude, even in the nightmare, when I died, because you know in the game how they keep moving in place, in my nightmare the imp kept like moving in place above me. Like when I died, you know, like how that happens in the game.
Jogging on the spot.
Yeah. I could it's kind of disturbing. I should talk to a therapist about that I can remember that nightmare so vividly. But yeah, man, my first like gaming related nightmare was fucking Doom.
Did you have nightmares after my H-Doom review as an adult?
You know what? I should really go. I have nightmares about the comments because I get like fuckwits commenting on that video like every day trying to.
I still can't believe it's a thing that exists, man. Like
Dude, it's amazing. Have you ever played it? Can I just say too that every podcast I've ever done, we always end up talking about HDM at one point. So always come back to HDM.
I just don't get it, man. I don't get it.
It's amazing, is what it is. It's like people want to like sort of avoid it, but then it always comes into the topic of discussion.
Was there not a point? Was there not a point during like making it where the people I don't know how many people were responsible?
It's one guy, I think, literally one dude is making it. Yeah, he's a really talented pixel artist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Like you just feel like that's the kind of thing that, it's like that person that made there's like a Pokemon mod where all the Pokemon are just like, anime women now. All the Pokemon are just anime women, and there's hundreds and hundreds.
What's that one called? Hang on, what's it called? I'm just gonna check it out.
I can't even remember. It's just like during development, is there not a point where someone goes, "Wait a minute, I'm putting way too much effort into this"?
I think it's like the novelty of the fact that someone, because the guy who made that is actually like a pixel artist, and I think he's done stuff for like 3D Realms recently. And it's like the novelty of a dude who is so talented, but he's obviously so bored that this is what he creates. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, he's more than bored.
Yeah, maybe. But like the amount of detail in some of his sprites is like, man, you should be getting paid for this, but he's just doing it for free. Like, and the Cacodemon sprite in that is the funniest shit you're ever going to see. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the Cacodemon sprite is still that giant big like thing, obviously, but it's got like a little anime face, and then these like giant tits that hang off it.
God,
dude, it's creative as you know. You can't fault that.
Anyway, on that bombshell.
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up. Spud, do you want to ask the traditional question of our guest?
What is your favorite? What is the traditional quest? We've been talking
top three.
Top three what? Enemies? I can't remember now. Weapons?
Yeah.
Top three animes. Yeah. Top three animes.
Top three animes. Yeah.
No. All right, I'm taking Spud. I'm taking it from you. I'm taking over. G-Man, what are your top three enemies of Doom Eternal? Like your favorite ones? They can either be like your favorite to fight, or the ones that piss you off the most and you love that, or the three you love because of their design or whatever.
Top three.
Your three favorite enemies.
Jeez, man. I don't know, dude. What's the? I think the redesigned like zombie men are pretty cool. There's something funny about those. The fact that those guys are demons and still have those perfectly manicured like haircuts is kind of appealing with like the glowing eyes and stuff. So I'm what? I need 3. Is that what we said?
Yeah.
Oh, 3. Jeez, case I got 2 to go.
Pressure's on.
Updated Arachnotron's pretty cool, considering those enemies were like boring as hell in Doom 2. To actually make them an actual threat, I think they're pretty cool to fight. And the fact that
they have a lot of character.
Yeah, and the fact that you've got that option to take out the thing on their turret is pretty cool. Plus, the face they make when you glory kill them is hilarious because they actually look like scared for their lives. Number 3. I don't know. Maybe probably the Mancubus again, man. Something funny about seeing those guys running around. And
they look so pissed off.
Yeah, and the way they kind of like stomp around. And I think one of the glory kills is don't you rip out their eye and then shove it down their throat or something, which is just classic to watch.
Their chest thing.
Yeah,
they're like,
you pull that out and then shove it down their throat, and then they explode like a few seconds later. But like, it's hard to pick one because all the enemies in that game have so much character. Like the animations just bring those sort of demons to life. But yeah, there you go. I'll stick with those 3. That's my answer.
Nice. Well, I guess that's it for today. So concludes another episode of Ketchup, Mayo, and Spud, the unofficial Doom Eternal podcast. I want to thank GMANLIVES so much for coming on. This has been excellent. It's been a total pleasure.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun to chat to you guys.
Anyone want to give their piece before we sign off?
Gonna have to do my weekly plug. If anyone wants to watch some competitive Doom Eternal, we've just kicked off the Invitational, gathering some of the best players in the PC community for the Doom Eternals multiplayer. And they're playing across 7 weeks of competitive. We have a featured matchup every Friday, 7:30 p.m. ET over at Bethesda's Twitch. So if you like Doom Eternal and you want to see what the highest level of multiplayer looks like, then look no further than Friday Night Fights every Friday night. So as I guess the proof's in the title, really. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me, everyone. And yeah, just cheers, G-Man. It's been a pleasure chatting. And again, big fan. Love your content.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely check out the Friday Night Fights. It's some sweaty Doom plays if you want to see that. And myself, I'll give a quick self-plug to an event this Sunday night. It'd be Sunday morning for the rest of the world. The time's to be confirmed, but I'll post that on my Twitter. The Golden Potato Duel Tournament for Quake. Yeah. Doing that again with some of the Australian lads. It's good fun. I hadn't done it in like a year and a half, 2 years now. It's been crazy, man. Quick time flies, man. So we're getting stuck into that again. Starting that up because no one else is doing tournaments in Australia anymore. So I thought, well, we better do it. Keep the torch going. Pass on the flame. Keep the tradition going. This weekend, Sunday night, we'll be doing a Golden Potato. And thanks for coming on, G-Man. It was a pleasure and another fun podcast. Mayo, take it away.
This will be up probably Wednesday or Thursday this week. So if you're hearing this then, make sure you check out my channel. I'll have the official Brawler Mode rules for Doom Eternal. It comes out this Monday, so it'll already be out for a few days once you hear this. Go check out that rule set. If you're looking for a new, fresh take on Doom Eternal gameplay, check out that rule set, and I think you'll enjoy it. That's it for everybody here. G-Man, thank you so much for coming on, and I guess we will see you guys later, and goodbye.